This guy's body is completely covered in cursed runes and battle scars, and is treated like garbage by his own team. But why? Born into a powerful family, branded a failure, he exists for one purpose only: to absorb the curses and wounds of the world's hero squad. The silver-haired princess orders him to strip yet another curse from the blonde hero. Crash obeys. His dark power rips the poison straight out of the hero's veins and dumps it into his own shattered body. His job is to take their pain, and is not even worth a second glance. All of this while a colossal skeletal boss looms over them, ready to wipe humanity off the map. Then something goes wrong. The hero isn't fighting. He looks bored. He announces the world is finished, and drops the bomb. His real power is regression. He's cracking open a gate to the past for himself and his 3 companions, and leaving Crash behind to be slaughtered. When Crash begs for help, the hero smiles, cold and cruel, and hands him the truth like a knife to the gut. Crash was never a comrade. He was a disposable item, meant to be used until broken, then swapped out for a fresh version in the next timeline. And it wasn't just the hero. Every single member of that group owed Crash a debt written in blood. Abella, the Tower Witch, begged him to take her curses so she could keep casting. And when Crash, rotting from the inside out, went looking for something just to dull the pain, she attacked him. Mary Diana, the Empire's most powerful knight, made his days at the Academy a living hell. She beat him, mocked his Valheim roots, called him a liar, knowing full well he couldn't fight back. Sigrun, the very princess barking orders at him, turned on him in the final moment and defended the traitor hero without a second thought. Crash even gave up an eye for these people, and got nothing but silence and contempt in return. Pure rage floods through him as the weight of it all crashes down. His sacrifice meant nothing. His pain meant nothing. Refusing to be thrown out like garbage, he forces his broken body forward and fires the Black Hood. Not at a curse this time, but at Arthur's regression power itself. The magic lunges forward, a dark hand closing around the hero from behind. Crash expects a lock. There is none. Arthur never treasured that power. To him, reliving the apocalypse over and over was its own curse. And in that moment, Crash understands. Arthur didn't just leave him behind. He handed him the one thing he wanted to be rid of, and used Crash to do it. Even this was one last job, but none of that stops him. Crash tears the time travel magic apart at the exact moment the giant scythe obliterates reality itself. Then, silence. Birds. Warm air. Crash's eyes snap open. No battlefield. No corpses. A soft bed. He bolts to a mirror and stares at his 10-year-old face staring back, wide-eyed, untouched, with no idea what's coming. The regression worked. The power is his now. But this time, the disposable item remembers everything, and he will never be anyone's tool again. The world erosion is a phenomenon that corrodes the earth, dragging it into another dimension. After the event, drastic environmental changes occur, and they worsen with each new incursion. Between incursions, humanoid creatures emerge. They are known as the invaders of worlds. The moment they appear, their malevolent presence spreads terror. People run in panic as they watch the invaders devastate the villages. But there are humans who resist the erosion's advance. They fight against these invading monsters. Knights and mags are among those facing them right now. Together, they are called the Blue Generation. The hero whose body can seal curses also joined the Blue Generation. In the end, he is treated like a vessel for curses and betrayed by his own comrades. Crash Valheim lived a miserable life until the day he woke up in the past. At 13 years old, he wakes up in shock, realizing his friend's magic worked, and sent him back in time. He is in his old childhood room. Moments ago, he faced a deadly cold. Now, he feels the summer heat. He understands that his gamble, using the Black Hood on Arthur, brought him back to Green Pine Manor. The magic not only worked, it also stole Lord Arthur's ability. Confusion floods his thoughts. He wonders how it was possible to steal his former comrade's ability. The Black Hood's ability can be used freely, with no apparent restrictions. However, to steal a target's possession, the user must unlock a lock generated upon activation. The lock's difficulty is based on the owner's affinity for the item. This increases the difficulty of the theft, an ability that could transfer 99% of the world's wealth to its wielder. It is a unique ability, with an absurdly difficult theft condition, making it extremely valuable. Crash knows that the greater the target's value, the more complex the conditions for the theft. This makes him question what was going through Lord Arthur's mind, because when he activated the ability, no lock appeared. The absence of the lock can only mean one thing. Arthur wanted to get rid of that ability. The man known as the King of Heroes wanted to abandon his power of regression. Now, he remembers. He had noticed something strange about Arthur lately. He remembers the constant look of exhaustion on his face. The world's imminent destruction and the endless problems drove Arthur to madness. To the king of heroes, his ability was a curse, and that is why he tried to make the others keep their memories. The goal was for them to return together, leaving the hero behind. The theft of the ability, however, means something much deeper. It means that the Arthur that Crash knew lost the ability and was left behind in the doomed world. There, he is crushed by the Blue Death Knight's meteor. The conclusion is clear that Arthur died to be free of the ability he saw as a curse. The hero laughs and hopes that Lord Arthur is happy and resting in peace. He does this even knowing that Arthur always despised him. After all, stealing curses is not something anyone can or wants to do. They never paid attention to the companion who suffered the most, always in the group shadows. Back then, exhaustion and sadness consumed him, leading him to cry constantly. Now, he understands that Arthur just got what he deserved for being a piece of trash. In the Green Pine Mansion, the hero realizes his body is still very small. Seeing his reflection, he notices he is only 10 years old, with a small but already muscular frame. It is the result of wielding a sword every day to survive in the Valheim family, the strongest clan in the kingdom of Starlan. His presence in the Green Pine Mansion is proof that the trial ceremony has already happened. The Valheim family's trial ceremony is the ritual where each person's ability is revealed by a contracted god. The god's rank depends on the contractor's quality, but he was the exception among the blessed bloodlines of Valheim. With no martial talent and rejected by all the gods, he is expelled from the main house. That is why he is sent to the Green Pine Mansion, the destination for all the failures of the royal bloodline. Now, only he, the greatest failure of the Valheim family, knows something crucial. He knows about the end of the world, an apocalypse that not even the blue generation can stop. He wonders if he is capable of stopping this apocalypse, and, as a consequence, the complete destruction of the world he knows. Crash Valheim, now a child, punches the air with determination. He tells himself not to be sad. He still does not know if he will be able to stop the end of the world, but Crash is motivated, and tells himself that he must stop it. If the world ends, he will die with it, and so he has no choice. Immediately, he starts thinking about the first step to prevent the apocalypse. At that moment, Ariad, his butler, appears to serve the young master. The hero is immensely happy to see that old Ariad is alive. As the sole butler of the mansion, he asks if the young master needs anything. Ariad is the butler who cared for the failure known as Crash Valheim. However, the poison his brother gave him will be used on the butler, marking his first betrayal at 14 years old. A girl eliminates multiple enemies with a single, swift strike. A powerful aura emanates from her body as she strikes down her opponents. The knights are in shock, as a girl of only 15 has neutralized them all. She is the Sword Saint, Charlotte Valheim, Crash's older sister. Her talent is said to be a phenomenon that appears only once in a millennium. They know she is a genius from another bloodline, and that thanks to her, the Valheim family will never be extinguished. The one who says this is Belakin, Crash's half-brother who actually wants to eliminate this entire bloodline. Despite this, they consider Charlotte a huge risk, though they comment that her mother is decent. The conversation then turns to the useless failure of the Valheim family. Belakin reveals his plan to eliminate Crash, and communicates his intention to old Ariad. He argues that the butler's career was cut short because of Crash, offering a motive for the elimination. Belakin proposes that Ariad give Crash a poison, and in return, he will no longer have to worry about his daughter's treatment or money. The butler, however, hesitates, as he raised young Master Crash as if he were his own son. Noticing the hesitation, the half-brother cuts him off with a new argument. He asks if he is really going to choose to save someone else's son, instead of saving his own biological daughter. The weight of the choice makes the old butler Ariad reflect deeply. In the end, he concludes that he cannot save Crash over his own daughter. But in the past, events unfolded differently, and a young Crash trembles in fear. He cries as he sees Ariad on the ground, gravely wounded and spitting blood. The butler apologizes to the young master, confessing that his mission that day was to eliminate him. He confesses to this act, even while considering the young master as precious as a son. In that instant, he makes the decision to die in the little boy's place. Crash is crushed by guilt over his butler's death. Ariad eats the poisoned steak in Crash's place, using the poison his brother gave him for the task. Now, Crash approaches and asks the old butler when he intends to take that poison. Ariad is in shock at the question, as Crash knows he plans to poison him to save his own daughter. He states that sooner or later, the truth would come to light. Afraid of forcing him to make an impossible choice again, Crash demands that he stop feigning ignorance. He knows this order would never have been given if he were not considered the family's failure. Ariad expected Crash to cry with rage, or feel guilty about his betrayal. But the young master's reaction is completely different from what the old butler expected. He asks the butler to follow him. They walk to the library, and Iliad assumes the young master has come to study. The young master orders his butler to cut the wall. He states that the task will be easy, as Iliad is the butler of the Valheim family. The butler takes a few steps forward. He prepares himself and draws his sword. His magical energy activates, preparing him for potential combat. Then he unleashes a strike that generates a powerful blast of wind. The attack destroys part of the wall with a clean and precise cut. Iliad is shocked to discover a secret passage in that location. As he watches the young master enter the passage, the butler notices something. Crash has become a completely different person. He now possesses the aura of a lord. The young man observes the secret location, and memories begin to surface. Before, everything in this place was consumed by fire, but in this reality, he has reached the location before the fire. The butler asks the young master if he wants the chains on the door to be cut. Crash replies that he will not be able to, and decides to test the power of the Black Hood ability. The darkness advances toward the padlock on the door and begins to destroy it. In the end, the chains holding the door break completely. In that instant, his butler is shocked by the ability the young master used. Crash removes the padlock, and Iliad asks if he has made a contract with a god. At this time in his life, he has not yet made such a contract. He then replies that the contract was made with an insignificant deity. The butler is confused when the young man asks him to report what happened in the library to his father. Until the day before, young Crash's eyes seemed empty and lifeless. Suddenly, everything changed the moment he made a contract with a god. He imagines that the young master has obtained a powerful ability, and remembers that he shares the same bloodline as his sister, the greatest genius of the Valheim family. Even if he is not on Charlotte Valheim's level, the butler believes he can become very strong. For this reason, he decides to understand what has happened to the young master. He tells the young master that he will not report anything about the incident. Crash then understands a side effect of his regression to the past. His actions, different from before, have caused a change in Iliad. The Iliad who betrayed him now exists only in his memories. He thinks about Arthur's suffering and the possibility of having gotten rid of that ability. He plans to cure the butler's daughter's illness to earn his loyalty, increasing the number of pawns in his new life. His rude and impolite demeanor is a facade, a calculated act for the moment he cures the butler's daughter. But for now, the secret library is his only priority. As he opens the doors, a powerful purple light floods his vision. The shock is immediate, and his eyes widen at the scene. Suddenly, a beam of intense magical light erupts through the door, startling him. A chill runs through his body, even for someone who has endured countless curses on his journey. In that instant, there is no doubt that the book he seeks is in this library. His eyes are drawn to an intense light emanating from one of the shelves. And finally, he finds the book he has been looking for all this time. In these books, the ancestors considered failures of the Valheim family recorded their techniques and life memories. This is a product of humanity, a place where they kept their secrets to reach the pinnacle of power. At first, access was free, but it all became secret because of a single person. That person was Damaris Valheim. This man was the greatest failure in the history of the Valheim lineage, but he was also the one who, consumed by the world's erosion, became the strongest of all. The image shows his smile after being consumed by the erosion. Now, the secret book of his ancestors' greatest failure is in his hands. The story of Damaris Valheim, the family's greatest failure, unfolds. And yet, he was the strongest in the entire history of the Valheims. At the height of his power, the most powerful warriors of the era challenged him. With his dehumanized hands and giant fangs, he created spheres of pure energy. No one was capable of stopping the monstrosity that was Damaris Valheim. All who faced him met their death. Extreme blood immersion venom. That was his ability. He incorporated the world's erosion into his own body, possessing the insane secret weapon to wield such power. Half of the book is burned, and he assumes that Damaris went mad as the erosion advanced. He remembers when he was struck by the curse of erosion, weakening it with the Black Hood and compensating with other curses. If the same principle applies to the devastation caused by the extreme blood immersion venom, and if he steals a curse that controls this advance, then he can acquire the strength of the erosion like Damaris, but without going mad from the consequences. In this way, he can become as strong as Damaris. Confidence grows within him, as the plan to control the venom and avoid insanity seems possible. Crash makes a request to his butler, Iliad. He orders that no one is allowed to enter the Green Pine Mansion. The butler obeys and leaves the library. Iliad intends to repay the young master's favor, and that is why he refuses Belican's offer. Belican is enraged by the refusal, especially when Iliad states that his true master is the young Crash Valheim. Belican's fury grows as he thinks about such a failure in the family, and even Charlotte's genius irritates him, all because her bloodline became an obstacle in his path. If it were not for her, both he and LYSH would have kept their positions in the direct bloodline. The memory consumes him with rage. He lets out a scream, and his butler approaches to ask if he needs anything. Belican orders the butler to go to the Green Pine Mansion, where the young Master Crash is. He demands to know why Iliad changed his mind, but the butler replies that he cannot enter the mansion. Iliad blocks entry to everyone, including the head of the family himself. Belican is outraged by the audacity of them preventing the owner from entering his own property. The older brother explodes in fury against the younger one, calling him an arrogant failure. Meanwhile, the hero meditates, releasing a large amount of energy in the process. He realizes he has reached the experienced beginner level. There are several stages of aura, and he is in the first, the user stage, as he has just learned to master it. The second stage is the experience level, where most aura users are. He has barely reached the beginning of the path, while Charlotte, only 2 years older, is already an aura master. But not even his older sister's terrifying power was enough. In the end, she also gave in, as her power did not work against the erosion. Compared to his sister, Charlotte Valheim, he is nothing more than a beginner. The realization makes him question if he can really save the world at this rate. His older consciousness observes him, reminding him that he will only know the answer when he tries. He orders himself to stop lamenting, because before the regression he could not even use aura. Now the situation is different. Even if he still cannot compare to his sister, he can get stronger with the secret art, a legacy left by the failures of his family. That is why Crash regains his confidence. He believes he can become stronger, and that it will be enough. His butler congratulates him for reaching the experienced beginner level. The protagonist responds modestly, saying it was nothing special. He then asks why the butler waited for his meditation to end. Iliad informs him that his fiancée, Bianca Hardenhearts, has arrived at the Green Pine Mansion. The news leaves Crash stunned. Bianca is known by a fearsome nickname, the White Demon. She was the leader who, as a pawn of the World Eaters, tried to destroy everything and earned that nickname by defeating the strongest Celestials. Now, she is just the youngest daughter of the Hardenhearts family. Their marriage is a political arrangement. The Hardenhearts rule the North, and the Valheims use this alliance to connect with a powerful martial family. Thus, the two children are mere instruments for their families. He has business with Bianca, but her visit is unexpected. Bianca is the youngest daughter of the Hardenhearts, the rulers of the North, and was born after her mother was taken by the curse of erosion. She carries the curse of the Snow Doll, a condition that left her devoid of emotions from birth. The curse struck her unbreakable soul and corrupted her body, preventing her from forming a contract with a god. She is treated as a cursed child, born in exchange for her mother's life. That is why Bianca is treated coldly by the Hardenhearts family. He wonders if Bianca hates him for some reason. As long as he does not steal her curse, there will be no reason for Bianca to hate him. After all, the Snow Doll is necessary to control the fury of the extreme immersion poison in her blood. He decides to change his clothes to receive her. He orders the butler to let her in so they can talk. 5 months earlier, Crash Valheim and the girl had a fight. He threw her out when he realized she only wanted the Valheim family's power. On that occasion, he demanded the apathetic girl stop pretending to be his wife. She showed no reaction, but the fight struck her deep in her soul. This is why Bianca was reluctant to go to the Green Pine Mansion. Her parents warned her that their survival depended on winning the young Valheim's heart. So, even though she wanted no part in the plan, she went against her will. She was told that the fate of the Hardenhearts family was in her hands. She reflects that if she were not being forced into marriage by her family, she would not be stuck with a loser like him. Despite showing no reaction, she feels uneasy and shows anxiety upon arriving at the mansion. The girl is certain that in an ideal reality, she would reject someone like him. Crash arrives to greet her and the moment promises to be grim. However, he is kind and says he will reprimand the maid for serving hot tea to his fiancée Bianca. The girl shows no reaction to Crash Valheim's kindness. He comments on the weather and invites her for a walk in the garden to see the flowers. He then asks a servant to bring macadamia cookies for them both. He tells Bianca the journey must have been difficult and that they need to see each other in person, since they are getting married. He observes that she speaks as if she is in front of a superior, not her future spouse. The girl notices he is different than before and finds this change strange. Before, his gaze was sharp, but now he seems like a completely different person. He observes the nature around them, commenting that the place is very peaceful. Faced with such strangeness, Bianca asks if he is really Crash Valheim. The two stare at each other the moment she asks the question. He controls his reaction to avoid giving himself away. He scratches his head, once again pondering what to say. The young master then asks if he is really so different from how he used to be. In that instant, he releases a murderous intent that Bianca perceives, and a sinister aura envelops him. She apologizes for bringing it up, and he realizes he has scared her. His memories of that time are a mess, and he does not remember how he treated her. Looking at her apathetic face, he recognizes Bianca's signature expression. It is the same expression she wore when he met his end at the Northern Frozen Sea mansion. He tries to change the subject, revealing that he made a contract with God. The woman concludes that his personality changed because of this contract. It is then that he says he has a proposal for her. She asks if the proposal is to annul the marriage, now that he has made a contract with God. Crash interprets this to mean she does not want to marry someone like him, and that her desire to annul the engagement reveals her low self-esteem. However, the girl hears his assumption and neither corrects him nor denies the accusation. On the contrary, she affirms that she is his wife and declares that nothing will change that fact. He is genuinely surprised to hear Bianca say this without any trace of a lie. Crash decides to return to the main topic and talks about the ability he has awakened. He reveals that he intends to steal Bianca's curse for himself. She finds it strange that he wants to steal a curse that not even the greatest experts could break. She asks if he intends to handle the curse alone, and he confirms, wanting to use it to grant her any wish. She knows Crash is treated as a failure and that a barrier exists between him and the main family. The girl deduces that he is tired of everything and wants to use her curse to erase his own emotions. She wonders if this is what they call a disease of the heart. After all, a mage once told her that when someone reaches their maximum mental potential, they get a disease of the heart. Succumbing to this disease can lead a person to take their own life or to become kind, as if they were a different person. It is a dangerous time where certain behavioral changes are warning signs of an imminent end. The mage warned her that if she ever met someone like that, she should stay by their side. In response, she holds Crash Valheim's hand and affirms that everything will be all right. She adds that he needs to learn to control his emotions without relying on the curse. She promises to visit him regularly, perhaps even live near him, and he is astonished, as he thought she hated him and rejected the marriage. Bianca replies that even if that were true, she would never abandon someone in danger. He understands that Bianca is the type to act without hesitation once she makes a decision, but she is interpreting everything wrong. He fears she will refuse to give up the curse, and for that reason, he decides to activate his ability immediately. He then activates the Black Hood's ability, which manifests and surrounds the girl. His hand passes through her and begins to steal the curse from her body. The condition for the unlock is activated, but something surprises him in the process. After all, the first condition requires him to become friends with Bianca. Crash realizes this will be a problem, as the curse is recognized as part of her body and holds value because she was born with it. To unlock the condition, he needs to become friends with the White Demon, a task more difficult than becoming her husband. If he sends her away, it is only a matter of time until she becomes the White Demon, so keeping her close is the best option. At this moment, following Bianca's suggestion is the best method, and he welcomes the opportunity to see his wife regularly. Then, the girl says she will first confirm with her father if she can live near the hero. She says goodbye, and Crash calculates he will have a month until her return, time he will use to read all the books on secret arts. The next day, inside the Green Pine Mansion, something happens. Bianca is back, to the hero's complete surprise. She announces that she will live with him in the mansion starting today, and that she expects to be well taken care of. The hero is in shock at the news that he will be living with the girl. The hero begins to awaken. He slowly opens his eyes. He then notices that the girl is sleeping by his side. He wonders if Bianca decided to sleep by his side again. He thinks that if a visitor saw them like that, they would misunderstand the situation. She wakes up, wishes him a good morning, and asks what he is doing there. The protagonist asks Bianca the same question. Afterward, he begins his long and habitual meditation routine. As he stops to think, he realizes that months have passed since Bianca came to live with him. He remembers the day she arrived, and announced she would be living with him in the Green Pine Mansion. When she was placed under his care, the hero was completely shocked. She was moving in because her family gave permission, without even consulting him. He thought about asking if she would be okay far from her family, since she was only 12 years old. But when you have no emotions, affection for family disappears, and she was indifferent. This turned out to be a good opportunity to befriend her, and fulfill the requirement to steal the curse. It all happened in the summer, and now it is almost winter, with nearly half a year having passed. The opening of Rayhorn Academy, established by the 4 great kingdoms and the Empire, is approaching. It trains people capable of opposing the erosion of the world, accepting students between 15 and 20 years of age. Before his regression, it was this academy that produced countless members of the Blue Generation. It was because of that scum that he died, and the mere memory fills him with rage. Because he knows their weaknesses better than anyone, he will steal their skills. He turns 14 next year, and only 365 days remain until enrollment. That is why he must grow stronger by then, stealing the skills he needs. He is beginning to hit the limits of his talent, which restrict him to the level of a novice, the first step toward becoming an expert. His only choice is to steal Bianca's doll curse as soon as possible, and learn to use the blood immersion poison. He enters the room and finds Bianca, who is waiting for him, reading a book. Bianca states that she cannot leave Crash Valheim alone. She follows him everywhere, as if he were a helpless chick. He wonders when she will finally see him as a friend, which is necessary to meet the condition for stealing the curse. Crash considers asking her out, hoping to build the necessary affinity. At that very moment, his butler informs him that an invitation from the Starlight Sanctuary has just arrived. The Starlight Sanctuary is an annual gathering for the youth of the Starlon Kingdom, an event for socializing and forging connections. He vaguely recalls the event, and thanks Aliad for the explanation. Because he was confined to the Green Pine Mansion before his regression, his memories of the event are hazy. Despite this, he accepts the invitation. He suspects a certain person will be there, and decides to go, also to keep the promise he made to his butler. He announces that he will go to the Starlight Sanctuary with Bianca, and asks Aliad to notify the necessary people. Bianca warns him that the other attendees at the Starlight Sanctuary will surely try to criticize him. He knows she is right, but he is more worried about what they might say to Bianca. She, however, does not back down, and affirms that she will go with him to the Starlight Sanctuary. He argues that it is his duty as her fiancé to protect her from such situations. He clarifies that he is not asking as her fiancé, but because he wants to know her true feelings. She sees the look of pity on his face, and it bothers her once again. For the past few months, Crash has treated her with a strange and unexpected kindness. He takes her with him to the library, and even asks what she wants for breakfast. He lets her sleep peacefully under a tree while he tends to his own affairs. The girl feels genuinely happy to be treated with such kindness, something she never experienced in the Hardenheart household. It gets to the point where she almost forgets the terrible first impression she had of him. She realizes she is starting to like Crash, and states that she wants to go with him of her own free will, not just as his fiancé. Crash is visibly surprised to hear Bianca's words. In light of this, he agrees to let her accompany him to the Starlight Sanctuary. They depart by carriage, passing the Grand Garayu Pavilion on the way. She notices that he has rented out the region's most famous landmark entirely, and realizes the immense wealth they possess. In this world, the reason nobles are respected is because they fight the world's erosion in place of the commoners. And yet these party-obsessed people are considered the future of Starlon. At that moment, the hero and his fiancée Bianca arrive and enter the hall. He doubts there are many decent people in the Star Sanctuary. As soon as they enter, comments arise about him being the family's useless son, and her, the cursed woman of the Northern Conqueror. Being in the middle of these false nobles will not be effective, until someone gets excited by Valheim's arrival, considering him interesting and different from the others. This proves that there are some true nobles in this place. This is Tegreso Barakogma. At his side is the El Familiar. And finally, the third is the wood archer Anax Glazer. Together, the trio will be known as the heroes of Starlon. The reason for their interest in him is specific. The hero is certain it is because of Charlotte, Crash's older sister. She commented that many praised her dress, and that no one in the sanctuary is capable of defeating her in combat. Charlotte found the gathering very boring, and boasted excessively. Judging by the atmosphere, the hero realizes his sister has already caused trouble, and decides to leave the sanctuary as soon as possible. In that instant, Bianca pulls on his suit to get his attention. She tells him not to mind what people are saying, but he replies that he is actually thinking of his sister. He claims he does not care about the insults, and notices that she, also a target of their scorn, worries more about him than herself. Suddenly, they overhear people talking about the couple, referring to them without using their names. When the young master and his fiancée Bianca approach, everyone falls silent. They announce the arrival of Lord Darling Danfilion to the Star Sanctuary for the gathering. The center of attention from the Alchemy Castle Darling appears. He is the strangest among the eccentric nobles. The protagonist's body is covered in curse marks. A person tries to touch his body, asking why he is like this. The same person comments that this type of curse erosion can be resolved in a certain way. She claims she can cure him, and asks if he is interested in being her test subject. Seeing he has no energy to respond, she assumes he accepts the proposal. She states that the healing session will begin immediately. The woman then does something that makes Crash's eyes go wide. She approaches slowly, intending to kiss him on the mouth. The hero stops him. The figure before him is the Lord of the Alchemy Castle, Darling Danfelion. It is the first time he meets the man who will later be known as the King of Alchemy. In the present, he charms everyone at the ball. The hero cannot believe this attention-addicted stalker is in a place with so many people. The hero then approaches Bianca, seeking help to deal with the situation. She continues eating and responds apathetically, saying she will stay exactly where she is. The hero approaches Darling to start a conversation, but the alchemist does not recognize him. However, when the young man introduces himself as Crash Valheim, the name sparks a faint memory in Darling. Then the memory clicks into place. He is Charlotte's younger brother, and the resemblance between them is remarkable. Realizing the connection, the nobleman is fascinated by the fact that he is Charlotte's brother. Darling asks if he has some business with him, and speculates that his clothes must have caught the boy's eye. The hero ignores the taunt and changes the subject, revealing that he knows about Darling's research on the world's erosion. The revelation instantly piques Darling's interest in the boy. Darling remarks that he is quite a provocative boy. He states that his interest is piqued, and the two withdraw to a private room, closing the door behind them. The future king of alchemy asks Crash his age. Darling picks up 2 swords as the hero answers that he is 13 years old. The alchemist remarks that he looks young, but his aura is completely at odds with his age. Internally, he feels like an academy veteran, so he decides to get straight to the point. The king of alchemy orders him to say everything he has to say. In that moment, the protagonist grips his sword and begins to tremble. His eyes widen as he witnesses a bewildering sight. The king of alchemy strikes with his sword, and the boy parries at the last second. He then dodges and asks what Darling is doing, questioning the sudden attack. Darling replies that since he is Charlotte's brother, he wants to test his skills first. This deeply irritates the protagonist, who wanted to get straight to the point. Darling asks what he has to discuss, stating that he is listening to the proposal. The hero prepares to attack, and a dark aura forms around him. The sight surprises Darling, who had considered him a useless boy with no skills whatsoever. The hero states that he trains every day, and warns Darling not to use his techniques against a student. He mentions curse enhancement, and says he could help the king of alchemy with that matter. Darling asks what he knows about alchemy to justify proposing a partnership. Hearing the question, the protagonist stares at the future king of alchemy in silence. He then leaps into the air and spins his body. He places his sword against Darling's neck, ending the fight. He then states that the subject is the research to neutralize the world's erosion curse. He adds that the dispersers have not yet managed to break it using other curses. But to become a first-class alchemist, Darling needs to validate this research. Knowing this, the hero wants to help Darling become a great alchemist. He promises to help him by using his ability to steal curses. The offer leaves the eccentric nobleman in shock once again, as he realizes the boy has an aura, and is not useless and unskilled. Darling realizes that if the boy's words are true, this will be the perfect opportunity to test the supply and demand of curse neutralization. He asks if he can become his boyfriend in return, but what Crash wanted was a remedy to reduce the curses. Mixing remedies is Darling's specialty, and he confirms he will do what was asked. The blue generation had extraordinary abilities, but still failed to prevent the world's destruction. That is why a useless person like him needs to use every means possible, including remedies. Darling had heard he lost his motivation from being compared to Charlotte, but now he realizes that was a lie. While she is an overwhelming genius, he is a twisted individual. The eccentric and utterly distinct nature of the siblings excites Darling. In response, he asks the young man a direct question. He asks if the boy intends to attend Rehern Academy. With a confident look, the young man affirms that he obviously will. The answer leaves the future king of alchemy completely enchanted. He declares that he will mix the remedies for the curse, and is very excited to cooperate with Crash. Crash, however, has one more request. He mentions the discoloration disease, an incurable condition that darkens the victim's skin until death. The young master then orders him to create a cure for this curse. The alchemist, however, states that the disease is incurable, and that creating a cure is impossible even for him. Coming from the future, Crash knows that Darling will eventually find the cure. Darling clenches his fists and considers a response. Crash insists that he will be able to find a cure for the curse. Darling replies that the insistence wounds his pride a little. Despite this, The two shake hands and seal their promise. Crash asks that the remedy be sent to the Green Pine Mansion, and Darling promises to deliver it in person. He cannot stop thinking about how deeply Crash loves his sister Charlotte. Darling then confesses that the spot by his side is vacant, and that he would like to be his boyfriend. He admits the boy is still a child, but confesses that he also likes men. Hearing the alchemist's confession, the young man becomes visibly frightened. He starts running the instant the king of alchemy declares him his future lover. Crash remembers that Darling was the exact same type of man in his previous life. Back at the sanctuary, he notices a crowd forming a circle around some kind of scene. With a grim expression, he runs to see what is happening. In the center of the circle, a man holds Bianca by the arm, but her expression remains indifferent. Even with her arm gripped tightly, her thoughts are only of Crash. The moment he appears, she calls his name with an apathetic gaze. In that instant, Crash lands a kick on the man holding Bianca's arm. The impact sends the aggressor flying, making him crash into a table. The man was trying to take his fiancée by force. In response, Crash confronts him and demands to know what he thinks he is doing. He questions why the man dared to take his betrothed against her will. The man reacts in shock to the accusation. Crash points out that he was putting his hands on a 12-year-old girl, his fury evident. He asks if the man has that kind of taste, and the frightened guard vehemently denies it. The man defends himself, claiming he was only following orders from Princess Claudia. Crash is surprised to hear the name Claudia Stalin. The second princess ordered him to take Lady Bianca, and since she resisted, he had to use force. Bianca watches everything in silence, and Crash decides to believe the man's story. After all, she is the youngest daughter of the Hardenhearts, the rulers of the North, and the curse has tarnished the family's reputation among the nobles. Crash wonders why the princess would go to the trouble of summoning Bianca personally. He is certain that something is wrong. He searches for the real reason behind the princess's order. Then another connection forms in his mind. Someone close to the princess. The memory of that malicious boy's face surfaces. It was Anax, the man who obsessively stalked his sister. Even after his defeat at the Star Sanctuary, Anax's hatred and sick admiration for Charlotte persist. Anax knows he can never defeat Charlotte, so now his sights are set on him. Crash now understands the stalker's plan. With the truth in mind, Crash turns back to the guard. His attitude changes completely, and he allows the man to carry out his task. However, he sets one condition. He wants to see Lord Anax, not the second princess. He states that the guard serves the princess without knowing who is really pulling the strings. And so, he and Bianca head to the meeting with the princess and Lord Anax. The two of them walk down the hall towards their destination. On the way, Crash reflects on why Bianca refused the order. He is able to unravel the plot because he has lived through all this before. But Bianca, at only 12 years old, should not be able to sense the danger. He then asks his fiancée why she disobeyed the princess's summons. She replies that she was only obeying his order to wait in that spot. Crash Valheim smiles, realizing the girl's total innocence. He pats her head and tells her she did a good job. Suddenly, Anax starts to laugh. He is surprised to see the protagonist arrive. Crash says he came to see him, and Anax is pleased with the answer. The order was to allow young Master Crash inside the moment he arrived. The protagonist realizes the order was meant for Tagrazzo, Barakogma. He wonders who considered him such a skilled, dual-wielding swordsman, and where it all went wrong. Crash is relieved to learn that Anax gave an order to help him. Anax is curious about Crash Valheim and wants to fight him. Crash fought Charlotte, even though it is forbidden in the sanctuary, and that is why Anax believes facing him will be easy. Although both are experts, Anax's level is higher and his battle sense is unpredictable, making it impossible for Crash to read his movements. Before facing Anax, Crash wants to avoid a confrontation with this man, but seeing the look in Tagrazzo's eyes, he knows his opponent will not give up the fight so easily. Tagrazzo clenches his fists, concentrating his mana for a powerful punch. The massive blow hurtles toward Crash, who dodges and prepares a counterattack. He slides to evade Tagrazzo's attack. Tagrazzo performs an acrobatic flip to dodge the protagonist's strike. Crash gets back on his feet, ready for another attack. He kicks Tagrazzo with all his strength and the blow connects. His gaze is one of rage and precision fixed on his enemy. Then, he unleashes the 1-inch punch on Tagrazzo. The impact slams his enemy to the ground, knocking him unconscious. The protagonist sighs, ending the fight quickly and easily. Moments later, he wakes up and accuses Crash Valheim of being cruel. Crash replies that he was the one who challenged him, and that he could have avoided the fight. Now, Tagrazzo says he will get his weapon so they can fight again. The young master asks if Tagrazzo can even continue the fight. Even though he is injured, he smiles, confident about a second round. However, he suddenly collapses from the damage sustained in the fight. He passes out completely, unable to continue to a second round. He explains to Bianca that he used a secret family technique in the fight. The 1-inch punch came from a failure of the Valheim family. It is a secret technique that unleashes maximum destructive power at close range and causes internal damage. Before his return, it was the only technique he managed to salvage from the burning mansion. Thanks to it, he survived countless life-or-death situations. He used his best technique, and he knows Tograzzo will not be getting up for a long time. He says they can now enter the hall, since their opponent will no longer be in the way. They open the door, ready to face their targets. They find a man and a woman leaning on the balcony of the sanctuary. Someone approaches and calls for bail. The man finds it hilarious that they managed to defeat Barakagma. Crash knows that Anax used the second princess to lure him to this location. He realizes Anax is not here for her, but came directly for him. Anax concludes the rumors are false, since Crash figured it all out on his own. Crash challenges him to a duel, and declares there will be a consequence if he loses. He states that the rumors will change after this fight, because he intends to steal his ability. If the rumors call him a failure, then defeating him today will change that story. Anax Glazer watches Crash as he speaks. They were together from the academy to the Blue Generation. In his past life, they were old friends. They went through many trials together, but that friendship only existed because Crash was useful to Glazer, and that usefulness was revealed for the worst possible reason. The moment came when everyone in their group died, leaving Crash in complete despair. He begged Anax Glazer for help. Anax knew that if anyone found out the trap was his fault, he would lose his place in the Blue Generation. Crash said that if he was the only one to survive, no one would have to know the truth. He argued that the internal power struggles were complicated, and that Anax would be expelled because of a single incident. Upon hearing all that, Anax made his decision, because he did not want to be expelled. He would blame it all on Crash, since everyone hated him, and the truth about the incident would be forgotten. In response, Anax thanked Crash for being his friend until the end. Crash was hanging from the edge of a cliff, blind with rage against Glazer. He screamed that he had only been with Anax from the start because of Charlotte, and that the tragedy happened because he was distracted by his desire to marry her. Glazer retorted that this was the exact reason he hated Crash Valheim. He accused him of having no talent, but possessing a sharp intuition that always got in his way. And since Charlotte was getting married, their relationship would end that day. Anax said that maybe this was for the best for both of them. After all, Charlotte would not want a funeral on her wedding day. Crash's strength gave out, and he let go of the rock he was holding. As his body fell from the cliff, he wondered if his life would end like this, until someone grabbed his hand. It was Arthur, and the two of them ended up on the same team. However, that was the beginning of an even bigger catastrophe. After that, Anax was expelled from the Blue Generation because of Arthur's testimony, and in his desperation, he tried to marry the princess. Back in the present, Anax comments that Crash's face and way of speaking are identical to Charlotte's. Hearing this enrages the hero as he remembers the past and sees that his enemy has not changed at all. He orders Anax not to speak his sister's name so casually. With power concentrated in his hands, he charges toward the enemy. He declares that just like his sister, he never runs from a fight and always goes on the attack. Anax Glazer shows no reaction. A tree erupts from the ground to block his punch. The hero grabs the branch, preparing an acrobatic move. He then vaults onto the branch to launch another attack, but the branch beneath his feet begins to break apart. It coils around his ankle, as if it were alive. Then, the tree root grabs him by the foot and hurls him away. He slams into the ground, and more branches instantly erupt to pin him down. He finally breaks free from the branches and takes a fighting stance once more, but exhaustion begins to set in. Just as he predicted, this is a difficult fight. Anax asks if that is all he has, and suggests he use a weapon against the Glazer family's secret technique, the Celestial Wood style. He combines his recovery ability to manipulate various plants, reinforcing them with his aura. The hero picks up a piece of wood and asks if this is the weapon he wanted. He declares he will fight using the same kind of branch his opponent is so fond of. Glazer is insulted by young Master Valheim's attitude. He challenges him to block his root attacks with nothing but that small branch. In that instant, the boy rushes forward, dodging every attack with apparent ease. His agility surprises Glazer, who watches him evade every strike. It would make sense if he were a genius like Charlotte, but he is just the family failure. Glazer wonders if he has awakened the mind's eye. To Crash, he is no different from any other enemy, and that is his greatest advantage, because in his past life, he saw these same skills until he was sick of them. He knows that Anax is easily distracted whenever he thinks about Charlotte. Taking advantage of a moment of silence, the hero realizes his opponent is thinking about Charlotte again. In response, Anax uses his magic to summon an enormous tree trunk for his next attack. The hero shields his face from the cloud of dust rushing toward him. Anax uses the fifth form of the celestial wood style to create a monster, the wooden giant. He warns that the fight is about to get harder, and tells his opponent to be careful. The princess watches and says that Anax should not have done that. After all, if young Master Crash takes a direct hit, there will be a serious problem. As she fears the irreversible consequences, the wooden giant readies a punch aimed at the boy. The hero, however, shows no fear. He already seems to have a plan to deal with the threat. Among the books in the mansion's library, there is a tiny secret manual. Its author, an ancestor of the family, was a man with no talent who wielded his sword until the age of 80, repeating the same training infinitely. The manual, written in his final years, is short, and describes swinging practices and a technique that requires total unity between the swordsman and the sword. However, having faced similar situations many times because of his curse, he understands the ancestor's secret technique. He and the sword become one, and he swings it in a single motion. In that strike, he accesses a specific dimension, and delivers a clean cut that eliminates the wooden giant. He defeats the monster using only a branch, not a sword. The princess is in complete shock at the scene. Anax Glazer also cannot believe what he sees. Our hero emerges from the smoke, drawing his opponent's attention. He throws the branch on the ground, and warns him not to be so arrogant next time. The enemy then collapses to the ground with no strength to keep fighting. However, our hero is also exhausted after eliminating the wooden giant. His plan was to hold back just enough to make stealing the skill easier, but he used all his strength, and now he cannot move a muscle or even speak. Bianca then appears, hugs him, and says she will help Crash. She presses hard on his chest, as if trying to stop him from choking. At this rate, Crash will die, and the others ask her to stop. A man then puts him on his back and takes him to the infirmary. Everyone in the hall erupts into commotion upon realizing he defeated Anax in combat. Rumors spread quickly about the family's good-for-nothing who defeated a noble. No one had planned for something of this magnitude, and the boy will become a celebrity when he wakes up. Besides, something interesting also happened during the fight. Anax's expression worries him, giving him a bad feeling that something is about to happen. The King of Alchemy then states that he cannot die before helping with his research. Our hero wakes up, and a while later returns to his training. A week passes since his return from the Star Sanctuary. He recovers from the damage of the sword, aware that his condition would be worse than Anax's if he had used it any longer. If he had not passed out, he could have finished the preparations to steal his opponent's ability. And Crash has two ways in mind to do this. The first method is to unlock the Black Hood's padlock, and the second is to induce the opponent. The method he intends to use is the second one. This method is considered easy, as long as one can overwhelmingly defeat the opponent. Since the wooden giant fell with a single attack, the doubt Anax feels spreads like waves. Losing to the worthless man he despised makes him doubt his own abilities. Even if it takes time, his recovery ability will eventually belong to Crash. This is because he intends to train every day for the next year, until the academy, to overcome his genes. In that instant, his butler appears to address the young master. He informs him that Belican, his older brother, has just arrived at the Green Pine Mansion. Unable to ignore his presence any longer, he allows his brother to enter the mansion. Bianca offers him a glass of water after his intense training. She also comments on the smell of his sweat. He knows that impurities are expelled when expanding his aura, and he did not even notice the foul smell. She asks if he should not take a bath before meeting his brother. Faced with his refusal, she asks him to stay away because of the odor. He asks if she is giving orders to her own fiancé. He realizes how much Bianca has grown after the recent events. Then, she starts running away from him, which surprises him. He sees her as a younger sister and cannot resist teasing her. His acquaintances from before the regression would be watching him coldly now. He immediately thinks of Lord Arthur's reaction, which would be completely apathetic. He believes Arthur would call him soft and say that, at this rate, he would not be able to stop the world's destruction. Thinking of Arthur makes his mind wander for a moment. He hates to admit that, except for the final moment, Arthur was always a hero on the front lines who never let his guard down. The teasing is interrupted when his older brother finally appears. Belican Valheim notices the two are having fun and accuses his brother of flirting with his fiancée. The protagonist replies that everyone needs some time to have fun. He reflects that the boy, who was once so scared he would not even make eye contact, now stares at him directly. He confirms that the rumors about defeating Onyx have spread and asks the reason for his visit to the Green Pine Mansion. He replies that he heard the academy will accept students based on exam results instead of status. In response, the protagonist states that his brother should start preparing. Insulted, Belican realizes the boy is deliberately provoking him. Even the strongest empire in the world fears the Valheim family and does not dare to attack the kingdom of Starion. His family is on a completely different level from the other noble houses, and he is a direct descendant. He finds it absurd that his brother tells him to prepare for the exams and is unimpressed by the victory against Onyx. He replies that it is natural for a commoner to worry about what can be gained at the academy. Seeing that his brother does not react with offense, he asks what kind of attitude this is. He reveals that he came to the Green Pine Mansion to deliver an order to his younger brother. The order is to stop the world erosion that occurred on Mount Garalac. The young man argues that he is only 15, but his brother replies that he will accompany him as a guardian and tells him not to be afraid. He realizes his brother wants to test his strength and keep him under control, and so he agrees to go along. He is more accustomed to fighting the corrosion than to living a peaceful life. Even if it is a trap, he has a plan. He informs Bianca that he will be away to handle the corrosion mission and asks her not to follow him. She replies that she will not follow him and calmly obeys. She comments that it is absurd to send a 13-year-old child to handle this type of mission. Upon hearing the words of the cursed princess, his older brother complains. He protects his fiancée, saying that his brother should not take the words of a 12-year-old child seriously. This statement directly insults his brother's intelligence. The brother reacts with fury to his words. He turns his back and leaves, offended by his younger brother's provocation. Then he tells Bianca that she did a good job, even without knowing exactly what she did. He adds that even without understanding, the lady will be happy with the result. As he strokes his fiancée's head, she asks him not to faint again. He picks up his weapon and states that he is leaving for the mission alongside his brother. The world corrosion is a phenomenon where the world is invaded by another dimension, causing new species to emerge. Over time, drastic changes occur in the environment and the corrosion expands. This results in entire areas transforming into otherworldly landscapes, like Mount Garalac, which rotted. The area is classified as a 3-star corrosion, and the purification team reports that the work will begin after the boss is defeated. The 3-star level is a challenge that would trouble even an experienced Order of Knights. Despite appearances, Belican is a high-level expert, capable of defeating the boss of the corrupted zone with ease. At this moment, however, he makes a request to his brother, Crash. He says that he brought him here so that he, a low-level specialist, can gain some experience. Crash pretends to believe him, but he knows his brother has a hidden motive. The reason he followed him, even while aware of the pressure being applied, is to test a temporary solution for his own power surges. In that instant, they strike down a bizarre insect from the corrupted dimension. The knights comment that at this rate, the combat will never end. Crash points to a headless, corroded creature covered in teeth and warns that they must protect their bodies with aura because its bite causes swelling. The knights ask if Crash has ever fought in a corrupted world before. One of them observes that it is already strange for a 13-year-old boy to get so close to a zone like this. His brother comments that for someone so useless, he is far too calm in his first corrupted zone. After all, when he himself saw a corrupted zone at 15, his pride was shattered. He wonders how his younger brother can give advice to the knights, a reaction completely different from his own first experience. Seeing the smile on Crash's face, he tries not to compare himself to the boy. His ego is already shaken by his younger brother's performance. He grips the sword with trembling hands, watching his brother instruct the knights. Then, he activates an aura that envelops the blade of his sword. A specific hypothesis forms in his mind. He fears that Crash, just like Charlotte, grows to surpass him. In that scenario, Belican becomes the useless one of Valheim, a fate he refuses to accept. In that instant, he charges forward and attacks some nearby monsters. He warns that they are approaching the boss area and then steps into a red mist. Belican comments that they are lucky, as the situation seems easier than his first time with no other corrupted species besides the boss. The hero retorts that this is all the more reason to keep their guard up, as the situation is too strange. He suspects there must be a 3-star boss powerful enough to maintain all the corrosion by itself. His brother orders the knights not to be scared or shaken by the child's words. He claims that it is just a 3-star boss and that they will finish this to return as quickly as possible. The hero tries to focus on the task until a vision leaves him completely paralyzed. Thanks to the extreme immersion poison in his blood, he can see the energy of the corrupted world more clearly than before the regression. He holds the mask, aware that he needs to swallow this reality. The tension mounts as the decisive moment approaches. Amidst the smoke, his body contorts and a violent nausea hits him. He vomits a large amount of vital fluid, the process leaving him severely injured. Someone asks if Lord Crash is all right, but his brother interferes, saying he just stumbled from overexerting himself. The protagonist assures them he is fine, admitting he did not expect to vomit, but the corrupted energy acts like a poison, so this reaction is expected. He has no other choice. He masters the extreme immersion poison in the blood, as instructed in the secret manual, and now tries to fuse his aura with the energy. His aura circulates like a great river, absorbing the corrupted energy and creating a new color, a hue that cannot be overwritten. This is the side effect of the surge, a consequence that leaves him terrified. He knows that under normal conditions, he would not have endured such an ordeal. He begins to channel his aura to use a secret technique from the Seishuken, a place he believed had been erased from history. One day, a blind ancestor discovered a secret archive, but due to his blindness, he could not read what was written. He had no choice but to seal the place, leaving behind a single manual to ensure no one like him would ever emerge again. The name of this technique is Sixth Sense. The hero makes his aura circulate intensely as he activates the blind ancestor's technique. It is an extrasensory perception, capable of detecting all sensations through the aura. For now, he cannot discern details, but it is enough to know where he is. He perceives that the world around him is now free from the surge's influence. He sees the surge retreat, and understands that with the Sixth Sense, he is able to overcome it. The protagonist wipes the rest of the vital fluid from his mouth, as a new thought takes shape. He knows this is a temporary solution, as an outbreak can occur at any moment when absorbing energy from the corrupted world. In that case, he still needs the ability of Bianca's cursed doll. Even though it is just a containment measure, the fact is that he can resist. It is the first time he manages to evolve to the next level, and then he feels something strange. He turns his head back, because he senses an enemy has appeared. In that exact moment, a bizarre creature emerges behind him. The malevolent creature remains with its eyes closed, until it opens them, emanating a red light. Our protagonist stands before the area boss. Before him stands a giant red being, a mixture of a worm and a lion's body. He warns everyone that this chimera is the level 3 area boss. The bizarre monster lets out a great roar to intimidate them all. Belakin, the protagonist's older brother, widens his eyes in shock. The protagonist reacts the same way as his brother, terrified in the face of the monster. This monster is Senganki, the demon of 1,000 faces. It prepares for combat. He orders everyone to prepare for the impending battle. The protagonist's older brother begins to envelop his sword in ice. Immediately after, he energizes it with fire. Then, the sword grows and becomes completely engulfed in flames. Belakin's ability is always impressive, with immense destructive power. The protagonist knows this is Ignis, the sermon ability. This same ability burned his arm in his past life, when his brother wanted to show the power gap between them. Now, he watches Belakin ignite his sword to defeat the enemy. Before the regression, his brother was completely insane. Now, he shows a very different demeanor, and the protagonist wonders if he is normal. However, the protagonist hopes that he has changed. Suddenly, a skill is used, and steals someone's face. One of the knights comments that it is a curse that erases faces. He adds that even the most experienced have trouble against those 8 arms. If the situation has come to this, the only choice is to flee. But the protagonist's older brother disagrees and orders them to fight. He unleashes a flaming slash against the creature they face in combat. The creature starts to catch fire, and its many faces express the monster's agony. Then, the creature falls to the ground after receiving the powerful flaming strike. Belakin shouts at them not to give up, because he is creating an opening. The knights at his side are surprised by his leadership. As expected, even the boss is powerless against him. The protagonist wonders if someone has died, since he cannot find him anywhere. He realizes his brother's gaze is fixed on the 1,000-faced demon, not on him. His older brother is completely focused on the area boss. At this critical moment, a vital fluid pours from the monster's eyes like tears. Its many faces shed the vital fluid, crying in agony. The protagonist is certain that something is wrong with the monster. He knows that at this rate, the situation will become dangerous for the group. Immediately after, his older brother leaps onto the creature, preparing another attack. Belakin feels the immense pressure emanating from the creature. He knows they must eliminate the demon now, before some anomaly occurs. He orders all the knights to attack at once, and he himself charges into the fight. The creature absorbs his aura attack, which has no effect at all. He orders his knights to launch the next attack, before the monster transforms any further. After all, the knights of Valheim should not be intimidated by something like this. He asks what exactly they are doing, noticing that they are all standing still. Then, the protagonist's older brother realizes he has fallen under the curse of the 1,000-faced demon without even touching it. He feels a strange sensation as his face begins to melt. He realizes he is caught in the curse. His face is erased, and he stands motionless before the monster. Suddenly, rain begins to fall, and a storm approaches. The protagonist realizes the situation is turning against them. The brothers feel they are going to die in this dire situation. He is certain that at this rate, his end is all that awaits. The thousand-faced demon is nearby, and he wonders how far they have come. The conclusion is that they have walked for a long time without reaching the outside, which means the world corrosion is an enclosed space. He thinks they cannot leave unless they defeat the demon. The thought that this is his end begins to take hold of him. He has visions of Charlotte, who speaks to him. She advises Bellekin on how he can survive. He tries to flee from the creature, which pursues him with full force. He is terrified by the creature's size and its obvious level of danger. He draws his sword and imbues it with a flaming aura to face the demon. He smashes his sword against the creature's immense hand, starting a clash of brute force. At that moment, the rain grows heavier. It falls without end, soaking the entire area. He falls to the ground, overcome with despair. The damage from the battle hinders his recovery, but his brother drags him by the legs to pull them out of the danger zone. In the distance, they watch the knights still fighting the thousand-faced demon. Bellekin wants to go back and help, but right now they are in no condition to fight. He reflects on the battle and the immense strength of the enemy they face. After the difficult fight against the monster, his brother retrieves his sword. Bellekin grinds his teeth, hopeless in the face of the corrosion that surrounds them. Seeing the monsters all around, he feels they will not make it out alive. He is certain that at this rate, the end is all that awaits them. With the thousand-faced demon nearby, he asks how far they still are from the exit. His brother replies they have walked for a long time without finding a way out, suggesting the world corrosion is an enclosed space. He concludes they cannot escape unless they defeat the demon. But in that instant, Crash Valheim reveals he has a way to win this fight. His brother says he has a secret technique that Charlotte taught him. This same secret technique is how he was able to fight Onyx of the Star Sanctuary. Apparently, Charlotte had special feelings for the brothers, perhaps from the very beginning. Bellekin asks his younger brother if he can really defeat the demon with this technique. Instead of just avoiding the enemy and wandering lost through the corrupted area, they decide to take the risk. He understands his brother's doubt, but still extends a hand to help him. He then asks his brother if he trusts their sister's ability. Bellekin replies that Charlotte is a genius, and so he trusts her ability. But if they fail, it will be the end for both brothers. Crash smiles and declares that there is no way he will fail. They stand in a terrible place, ravaged by the world corrosion. The two brothers await the demon's approach. He asks his brother if the Ignis ability is ready. His brother confirms and says they will begin the plan. Crash rises and steadies his stance. A powerful aura emanates from him, completely enveloping his body. He closes his eyes and concentrates to activate the ability. Bellekin is stunned as he witnesses his younger brother's mature aura. Crash Valheim's sword expands, continuously releasing energy. His brother wonders what kind of focus this is, what kind of aura surrounds him. He has never seen such a pure aura before. He hesitated when Charlotte asked to add the flames of Ignis to her secret technique. Despite all his practice, he never mastered that aura, but his brother somehow did. Crash asks for some of his brother's Ignis, and he complies. He hands over his fire magic, concentrating the power at the tip of the sword. Crash is engulfed by his brother's Ignis magic, and his body is covered in flames. His sword also grows, its blade consumed by embers. He then points out a problem to his brother. He says he cannot maintain the technique for long, and asks his brother to buy him time. His brother watches the flames, burning with an intensity he himself could never achieve. With that sword, he can likely defeat the demon of 1,000 faces. He remembers how he lost his subordinates in an instant, and how he could only run for his life. If Crash defeats the demon, it will mean something. It means he is weaker than the Valheim family's failure. Crash needs just one strike to end the demon. He prepares the strike, his sword wreathed in the flames of his brother's Ignis. He unleashes the attack perfectly, right before Bellekin's very eyes. It is a single strike, meant to defeat the monster cleanly. As Bellekin watches the scene, he is left in shock. The creature is engulfed in flames, and with a single strike, the boy finishes it. With the creature's death, the raging storm ceases, and the sky begins to shine again. Seeing the sun, Crash calls out to his older brother. He says the terrible situation is finally over. Bellekin is shocked to see how easily he accomplished it all. He begins to laugh, and draws his sword. He screams at his brother, intending to eliminate him. He strikes with his sword, but Crash defends, using Ignis magic on his own blade. Bellekin is shocked to see it. He wonders why he cannot use Ignis, and Crash thanks Bellekin. He thanks his brother for never changing, for being so predictable. The conditions to unlock Bellekin were clear. First, he had to willingly give a part of his Ignis to an opponent. Second, he had to acknowledge that this person controlled Ignis better than he did. And finally, His pride had to collapse. As this happens, Crash attacks his brother, severely wounding Bellekin. The flames finally incinerate the monster completely. He tears a piece from the monster with his sword. He remembers how, in the beginning, he only wished to get along with his brothers. But no matter how hard he tried, that wish never came true, and he was never loved by his brother. The cause of it all was the hostility of Bellekin Valheim. He still holds a spark of hope that, this time, Bellekin will recognize him as his brother. With no other choice, he forces the piece of the monster into his brother's mouth. Seeing him writhe in pain, he recalls the sensation is the same as when he was burned on his arms and face. That is why he just watches his older brother writhe in agony. He watches until his brother's legs stop moving. Ignoring the scene below, he raises his gaze to the sky. He notes the irony of such a beautiful day, and lets out a low laugh. The news that Lord Bellekin's Order of Knights has been decimated is announced at the main Valheim house. The corrosion level is raised to 5 stars, requiring a high-class specialist to defeat the monster. The story told is that if Lord Bellekin had not sacrificed himself, Crash would not have survived. Bellekin's personal butler weeps on hearing that his master sacrificed himself to save the useless member of the family. The head butler of Valheim announces that the brother saved by Bellekin's sacrifice is present. He listens to the conversation, where they state that Bellekin's honorable death cannot be in vain. He realizes they believed his testimony, and that he no longer needs to worry about it. Thanks to his brother, he obtained many results on this expedition. He confirmed that he can control the surges that occur in his sixth sense. He became more adept in the use of the extreme blood immersion poison, and through Ignis, he even gained the power of the black flames. Ignis is an ability that can set anything on fire, and when applied to the power of world corrosion, it acquired the effect of the dark flame. His only problem to solve at the main house is the investigation into the abnormal phenomena in the world corrosion zones. He knocks on the door, and receives permission to enter, hearing that the cause of the erosion is still unknown. Even if it is the work of a world corridor, its main body is submerged in an eternal dream, and it can only see the real world through its undead minions. He fears running into one of them now that they have started to move. Sephra, a 4th-class investigator from the World Corrosion Investigation, is waiting for him. He notices a black star on the woman's neck. The sight of the black star leaves him in shock. He thinks that he did not expect to find her so soon. He calls her an undead and states that he wishes to make a contract with her. He points his finger at her and declares that he will erase her immortality. She smiles, realizing that he is the regressor. Surprised, she drops her disguise and reveals her true sinister form. The Crimson Immortal, Garden August, is imprisoned. In the previous timeline, under Arthur's orders, an attempt to steal her immortality fails. Arthur explains that the immortal will be trapped in a cycle of regeneration, unable to command her forces. The reason the immortal has so many minions is that a curse prevents her real body from moving. The woman questions what is so regrettable about this, recalling the problems they faced when she raised the level of the corruption zone. Lady Sigrun warns her not to feign innocence, even if that was not her true intention. Arthur interrupts, stating that this will solve the immortal's problem and orders an end to the useless discussion. For him, however, the situation is a shame. He regrets that Crash failed to steal the curse of immortality. Even if the boy is reborn, the task will remain impossible for him. The condition for success is absolute. He would need to become stronger than the immortal herself. Back in the present, the woman smiles and asks if he is the regressor. She reveals her true face and declares she has found something completely useless. He responds by asking why she believes he is the regressor. She explains that a mere child proposing such a bold deal can only be a regressor. She accuses him of lying, since a regressor trapped in the gears of time could not eliminate a being who transcends time itself. The boy points his hand, his ability active, and assures her he is not lying. After all, his ability is capable of stealing her immortality. He uses the Black Hood's ability and a purple spectral hand envelops the woman. She clenches a fist, beginning to manifest her own energy, to find someone capable of eliminating her. She continued to increase the world's corrosion. And now, someone capable of stealing her curse of immortality finally appears. He presents his condition. He needs her help to become stronger. He explains that the ability can only be activated when he becomes stronger than her. He would become her disciple, and in return, she would sell her own soul to be free of the curse. Crimson Garden, August promises to make him the strongest man in the world and accepts the deal. It is absurd to be dominated this way by her aura alone without her true body present. Crimson Garden is powerful enough to rival Arthur and his strongest subordinates, even if he must borrow the power of a corruptor. He needs to stop the corrosion that annihilates the world. In this life, the regression ability has returned to Arthur, making it impossible for him to regress again by his own will. If the world is destroyed again in this life, his own existence will disappear. That is why, from now on, he and the Crimson Immortal will work together. When he calls her Crim, the woman reacts with surprise. She says his name, Crash, out loud. She places her hand on his head and orders him to call her master. With that settled, he finally sets off for his home. He explains that he came to this place many years ago, but he does not live here anymore. Valkyrie, the Lady of Valheim of the Direct Order of Knights, appears, and he can barely recall his own parents' faces. His mother explains that she did not reveal herself at the Pine Mansion, but became interested after hearing rumors about his changes. She introduces herself as his mother. She informs him that the Lord of the House wanted to see him immediately upon returning from the Forbidden Domain. His father traveled to a demigod's realm and, through the stars, sensed something related to his son. For that reason, Arya instructs him to remain at the main house until his father returns. He refuses to waste time at the main house because his fiancée, Bianca, is waiting for him. He says he will return when his father arrives and calls for him, a response that surprises his mother. Through the window, she watches him leave. She reflects that maybe his father can see him in person, and so he takes a carriage and arrives in a village. The journey continues along a simple dirt road. He feels free, believing he will not have to return to the House of Valheim for some time. The woman calls him an ill-mannered disciple and demands he open the door for her. Seeing her in the form of a red tree, he comments that the color is too conspicuous. In response, she transforms into a black crow and says she will change her color as many times as needed. She teases him, saying she is now a black crow, the same color as his eyes. She reveals that her true body cannot move and calls him a foolish regressor. He is an incomplete regressor using the ability of the true Arthur, but he keeps this secret from Crim. Finally, they arrive at the Green Pine Mansion. He warns Crim to be nice to a white chick who lives in the mansion. She finds it strange that there would be a chick in a mansion. At that moment, Bianca appears dressed as a white bird to welcome him. Crim realizes the white chick her master warned her about is actually his wife. Ariad also appears, and he asks if anything out of the ordinary happened. He informs him that a letter from Darling Danfilion has arrived. In the letter, Darling says the discoloration medicine is ready and that he prepared it quickly. He orders Ariad to treat Darling very well should he visit the mansion because he is a benefactor. The butler reveals that Bianca was worried about him the entire time he was away. Her concern grew when she heard he was involved in the corrosion incident. She even asked for a carriage to be prepared for her. He realizes that he has not checked Bianca's condition recently. Finally, the first condition for Bianca's friendship is fulfilled. The first condition is unlocked, greatly surprising the hero. She asks if there is something wrong with her face. The hero denies it and says he just wanted to introduce a new friend. He introduces the creature as Crim, and the girl takes it in her hands without hesitating. She hugs it tightly as if it were a stuffed animal. The hero tries to warn her that Crim will not like the gesture. Now he wants to figure out how to unlock the lock on her friendship. Normally, an important person is a family member, a friend, or a lover, and the last option seems the most likely. Then she releases Crim, who flies off completely disoriented. However, the hero does not want to become the lover of an emotionless Bianca. These were not the conditions before his regression, and besides, he is an adult on the inside. The pale girl seems to like Crim and refuses to let him go, so he decides to have a serious talk with Crash. He wants to test his own strength and heads to the training area. Crash considers his level pathetic for a regressor. He states that the young man has mediocre talent. Even using his past experiences and secret techniques, he barely manages a decent result, but all this effort can be surpassed by a true genius in less than 5 years. However, Crash has a proposal. This only applies to talent, which means nothing in the face of Crim, because the hero has a unique skill, the ability to steal talent from others. He never would have escaped rock bottom, but now this body will lift him up to conquer everything from the heights. And finally, Crash has one last thing to add. Assuming a human form, he declares that in the end, he can even steal his immortality. The hero watches and feels motivated by the immortal's words. He replies that it goes without saying and that he will obviously steal his immortality in the end. A few days pass and Darling arrives at the Green Pine Mansion to meet the hero. She calls him dear and asks if she kept him waiting long. The protagonist asks if she brought what he asked for. Then, Darling reveals the darkening potion intended for the butler's daughter. The protagonist comments that Darling has always been an alchemy genius and he thanks her. However, something seems to be bothering the alchemist. Suddenly, She hugs the hero, which leaves Crash visibly irritated. He pushes him away, but Darling insists he needs to tell him something. The alchemist reveals that Annex has changed. Annex had stopped training after losing to Charlotte, but returned to his routine after the incident at the Star Sanctuary. The hero realizes his rival was inspired after losing to him at the Sanctuary. He tells Darling that if he is done talking, he can leave, as he now has plans beyond Valheim. The crow intervenes, saying he was already planning to use the alchemist to strengthen the boy's mediocre body anyway. He orders Darling to prepare a few items, like a potion that enhances physical attributes and aura. These elixirs are extremely expensive, and their secret crafting techniques are closely guarded. They are items for a select few far beyond his reach, but the crow knows the formula and just needs to pass it on to Darling. The crow then asks if there is anything else he should expect before the tournament. After hearing about Annex, the hero asks Darling to craft a specific elixir for him. Darling asks if he has money for the materials, and the boy claims he will find a way using knowledge from his past life. The crow asks him to repeat the ingredients so Darling can write them down. The hero then begins to list the materials for the King of Alchemy. Darling is visibly confused by some of the components on the list. He begins to write down everything the boy says, so he will not forget anything. The alchemist asks where he got that information, and the hero replies that it is a secret family formula. Darling says the only problem will be getting all the materials. He explains that it is impossible to get Sun Snow's core or the Golden Dragon Herb. Sun Snow's core is only found in the steep, corrupted mountains to the north. In Hardenheart territory, the Golden Dragon Herb is a phantom item that grows near golden dragon nests in the remote regions of the Empire. They could buy it on the black market, but if the Empire found out, the consequences would be disastrous. The hero decides that if there is no other way, he will have to find a black market merchant. Darling then suggests the Epiphania Empire's martial arts tournament for youths under 15, where the prize is the Golden Dragon Herb. The hero remembers he is from Valheim, and that the Empire uses the tournament to gain political leverage against the Academy, which would complicate everything. Despite this, he claims to have a plan, and says he will use his genius to execute it. The hero sees Darling with a potion in his hand, and asks if he should drink it. As soon as he drinks the liquid, his hair begins to grow uncontrollably, and he lets out a scream. He realizes he has turned into a woman, a disguise to prevent his identity from being exposed during the tournament. Darling hugs him and says that all he needs to do now is enter the competition as a girl. The crow watches the entire scene, incredulous at what he is seeing. In response, the protagonist activates his curse, stealing ability to frighten Darling. Terrified, the alchemist immediately apologizes. A few days pass, and the hero now trains intensely with the crow. He concentrates his energy, while the crow concentrates his. Red energy envelops his entire body, and then he beats his wings. With this motion, he fires blasts of magic toward the protagonist. He senses the waves approaching, but keeps his eyes closed. Finally, he opens his eyes, and prepares to defend against the magical waves. He uses his sword to protect himself, cutting through the advancing energy. With a series of swift movements, the hero manages to cut and deflect the blows. However, one of the attacks hits him and knocks him to the ground. Krim orders the training to end. The pure blade technique taught this time is a style that reads the attacks of high-level enemies to instantly comprehend their movements, combined with his natural intuition and sixth sense. The technique leads him to the realm of clairvoyance. If he uses elixirs to strengthen his body, his movements will match his thoughts, and he will grow stronger. The crow announces it is almost time to leave. The protagonist gets dressed and asks if they should leave now, while carrying a potion. The crow asks if he remembered to bring what was requested. A few days prior, he learned that this medicine would make him undetectable, since no magic can perceive him. The hero regrets not using this sooner. Instead of being turned into a woman by a prank, he was told the transformation would last for an entire day. This left him stuck in that form for a day, and even knowing Darling was trustworthy, the situation left him exhausted. Aliad, the butler, is already waiting for the hero when he arrives at the meeting point. He explains that he made an offer to Fluka, a merchant from the lawless zone who will help him enter legally. She is a merchant of corrupted species and will cross the border with him. Thanks to the butler, he can leave the mansion without any worries. The butler assures him that he can leave everything in his hands, as everything will work out. He states that he will let absolutely no one enter, not even the head of the Valheim family. After Darling hands over the medicine for the discoloration disease, the young master says goodbye, The butler thanks him for curing his daughter, saying he can now die without regrets. The hero replies that if he is truly grateful, he must keep living and not dare to leave this world until he receives permission. It is a small price to pay compared to his daughter's life. In response, the butler begins to cry. He cries intensely and shouts that he will survive, no matter what. Crash Valheim realizes he can finally stop worrying about Iliad's betrayal, something that happened in his past life. Next, the protagonist goes to speak with Bianca. He thanks her for accepting his request. She says it has been a long time since she went home and that she will now get some rest, stating she will obtain the Sunsnow fungus and then return. She will be waiting for him at the Green Pine Mansion when he finishes his mission. The hero promises to try to return as quickly as possible to his fiancée. He understands that was why there was so much noise the day before, and then he notices she made sandwiches for him. When he says he will eat them later, she does not show much of a reaction. She wishes Crash a safe journey, and he thanks her, wishing her the same. And so, he and the crow depart for the Empire, with him in the carriage and the bird flying alongside. The protagonist wields his flaming sword in the middle of combat. With his hand, he rips out and absorbs a curse from his target. Thanks to the sixth sense, he notices that the power of corruption in the area remains stable. The cargo follows a route that avoids the Sundered Lands, and because of this, he is unable to absorb any curses, until Krim notices a rotten apple falling from a tree. The detail catches his eye right after he comments on how the butler chose a safe route. He realizes that something is trying to stop the carriage. A group of bandits holds a girl, their intentions the worst imaginable. His companion is in shock because she could not sense the bandit's presence. The girl thinks she is going to die, but something stops the bandit just as he is about to commit the act. A mysterious figure decapitates the aggressor, saving the girl from the imminent violation. The protagonist uses his purple magic, emanating from his hands, to eliminate the criminals. One of the bandits, shocked, asks who this brat is. The bandit leader orders them to eliminate the boy, and they all advance on him. They surround the boy with their weapons, shouting that he has no way to defend himself. The hero summons his greatsword through a magic portal, surprising everyone. He begins to slice through his enemies, eliminating the bandits with extreme ease. He cuts down another, running his sword through the man's head and ending his life instantly. He faces the lead bandit with a look filled with hatred. The bandit realizes this is no ordinary boy, and fear begins to take hold. So he tries to land a single blow to eliminate the protagonist once and for all. He strikes with his axe, but the boy blocks the attack with his sword. The protagonist activates the sixth sense, and begins to predict and block every attack. The criminal shouts that cheap tricks will not work, but the protagonist replies that he could handle him even without the sixth sense. The bandit announces he will use a secret technique, and tries to crush the boy's head. The hero already prepares his defense, watching the blow with clear disdain. The bandit gives a wicked look as he raises his axe to strike the boy. He uses the phantom battle axe, a strike charged with immense cursed energy. The boy watches the attack with wide eyes. The strike lets out a deafening roar. In that instant, the boy's sword is completely engulfed in flames. The sight leaves his enemy terrified, breaking out in a cold sweat before this unexpected power. The protagonist states that the technique the bandit used reveals he is a disciple of the killer dog. He claims to be a disciple of the mad dog, Belican, an assassin who pledged himself to the service of the world corruptor, alongside the white demon Bianca. His mission was to infiltrate Stardom and eliminate many people, but Charlotte Valheim eliminated him first. With his flaming sword, he severs the bandit's arms. As a result, Charlotte gained fame throughout the Empire, and the infiltration of Stardom was delayed. This makes the protagonist wonder why Belican's subordinates are already in the lawless zone. He considers their appearance premature, and defeats one of the mad dog's pupils, setting the man's body on fire without hesitation. A bad feeling about what is to come overwhelms him. He decides to take the golden dragon herb, and flee as quickly as possible. They arrive at the imperial capital, Ceylon. A wooden sign indicates the registration site for the martial arts tournament. A crowd gathers to compete in the tournament. The sight of the crowd excites the fourth princess of the empire, Epiphania. She expresses a desire to take everyone to the Rehern Academy, but her attendant warns her that His Majesty would be angry. The princess orders them not to mention her father, or her hallucinations. Cicely's attendant tries to tell her something important, but Cicely Ephania, the emperor's youngest daughter, refuses to listen and covers her ears with her hands. At 7 years old, she possesses a brilliant mind, capable of solving complex mathematical problems. Her talent is so great that many believe she can rewrite the history of the empire, a fact that is reported to His Imperial Majesty. This is how she discovers her position as an imperial candidate. Getting involved in the dispute for the throne with a fragile upbringing means immediate elimination. To survive, she needs to make everyone around her lose hope in her. So, Cicely uses her brilliant mind to play the part of a completely out-of-control daughter. In the end, even those who once praised her intelligence end up giving up on her. They begin to get annoyed with her inappropriate behavior and disregard her as an imperial candidate. Her attendant notices the act, but believes she is overdoing it lately. She becomes fascinated with Crash, drawn to his narrow eyes and his dark aura. The crow on his shoulder also enchants her. She sees him as a villain and suspects he might be a Valheim, an arch-enemy of the Empire. She trusts her intuition, convinced that he is a Valheim, even though the presence of a member of that family in the Empire is unthinkable. So, she jumps from the mezzanine, determined to confirm with her own eyes whether or not he is a Valheim. She runs towards him, intending to expose his true identity. Suddenly, she stumbles. The moment she falls, she instinctively uses telekinesis, but the protagonist catches her, stopping her from hitting the ground. He softly says she is a troublesome girl. He warns her to watch where she is going, and not to trip again. She thinks that his calm tone and gentle attitude are a sign that he knows exactly who she is. The hero signs up for the martial arts tournament, and looks for an inn to rest. The first one he finds is completely full. The second one is also packed with other tournament participants. A third inn also has all its rooms booked. That's why he decides he will sleep on the street that night. As he thinks about this, he hears an old woman's voice calling out to him. She says he can stay at her house since he has nowhere to stay for the tournament. The woman smiles sweetly and looks harmless. The crow finds the situation suspicious, but the hero accepts the old woman's offer. Krim comments that his mother should have taught him not to talk to strangers, but the hero is tired of sleeping on the streets since his past life. The crow considers that regress are annoying and careless. So, he flies after the hero toward the old woman's house. She goes to prepare dinner and instructs him to settle into the back room on the second floor. He goes up the stairs and finds a girl standing there looking at him. It is the same princess he met earlier at the tournament hall. The hero feels an immediate exhaustion just from looking at her. He realizes he has fallen into a trap and decides to ignore her, heading to the room to avoid trouble. He is about to open the door, but she stops him. She accuses him of ignoring a girl who is trying to talk. The hero is visibly annoyed by her words. He states that she is not his type and that there are more beautiful people in the world. He decides not to answer, and the princess finds him even more mysterious. She follows him down the hall, chattering non-stop. The hero gets irritated and orders her to stop following him. The girl insists they will have dinner together and that she wants to know more about him. The hero refuses to talk, saying he is not in the mood. She asks if he is being serious. She reminds him that she is a princess and that he should not act this way toward her. She calls him by his name, Crash of Stalon, and glares at him with a threatening look. The hero realizes she figured out his origin from a trivial conversation. She reinforces that it is unacceptable for him to act that way, especially since he knows she is a princess. She calls him by his real name. A deep sense of unease takes hold of him. He denies knowing what she is talking about and treats her like a child who should finish her dinner and go to bed. She questions him, asking who he is calling a child. Her attendant asks the princess if that young man is really from Stalon. The princess replies that while the language is the same, Stalon has a unique intonation and pronunciation, free of the Empire's accent. Noticing such a subtle difference is a feat only the princess could achieve. Her mind can analyze details an ordinary person would miss. His reaction confirms that he knows her well. The princess has an ability akin to a mind's eye. She declares that things are about to get interesting and orders them not to capture or interrogate him. She then asks if there has been any news about her sister, and the attendant confirms that everything happened exactly as the princess predicted. The third princess, Sigrin, is a completely different person than she was a year ago. Something about her is not right. This change frightens the princess, who senses imminent danger. That bad feeling was right. At this rate, the first and second princes are in grave danger. Sadness consumes her, for a rain of blood is about to fall upon the imperial palace. Meanwhile, the hero eliminates bandits with brutal strikes. A single punch is strong enough to send a man flying through the air. He takes down all his enemies with overwhelming force, and with the preliminaries over, the The four victors withdraw. Everyone's attention turns to the narrow-eyed man, a possible resident of the underworld, always accompanied by a strange crow on his shoulder. His dark expression is because of the girl who has been bothering him since yesterday. He is annoyed that he failed to extract any information from her during their brief conversation. Still, he feels a certain sense of relief. The encounter did not affect his performance in the preliminaries, where he defeated multiple participants at once. The preliminaries pit teams of 100 against each other, with only the top 4 advancing. He won with an absurd difference in power. Someone approaches and comments on the suspicious crow on his shoulder, confirming the rumors. The hero finds the bandaged man's approach strange. The man, who looks like a mummy, identifies him as a member of the infamous family of assassins, the Night Crows. The Night Crows are not part of the Empire, and are feared as the most dangerous force in the underworld, having played a role in the fall of nations. He claims that as an outsider, he does not know everything, but he has never heard of a member of that family joining the academy, and says the man is mistaken. The bandaged young man says he does not care who is behind him, as he only wanted to connect with other residents of the underworld. He formally introduces himself to the Night Crow, and then runs off. After the brief conversation, the stranger hurries away. Krim comments on the young man's ugly appearance, and asks if he is bothering his master. The crow takes flight, declaring it will help its master. Somehow, it manages to hypnotize the strange young man. The young man returns, walking mechanically, completely hypnotized. The crow informs its master that it used a simple mind control spell. He summons the crow to answer a question of utmost importance. He asks what happened to the Night Crows, and learns they recently fell into a destructive spiral. His presence at the martial arts tournament was a direct order from his new master, the same one who led them to ruin. He asks who the new master is, and the man under his control prepares to answer. The new master is Sigrun, the second prince of the Epiphania Empire, and Sicily's brother. The revelation that it is the second prince sends a deep shock through the protagonist. After all, the Night Crows are a trap created by the Empire to monitor and control the movements of the nobility. The imperial family has always been in command, which makes the title of New Master strange. This connection was a secret meant to be kept until the fall of the Empire. The fact that a low-ranking subordinate knows the master's identity means someone is manipulating the second prince and spreading this information. Originally, the second prince's role was to strengthen the first influence, but the plan was to get rid of him precisely to weaken the heir's power. In this scenario, the only person who benefits from the conflict is Sergun Epiphania. The mind behind the entire conspiracy is Sergun Epiphania. He can hardly believe it, as this confirms that Arthur's memory inheritance is truly working. If this is true, Sergun's next target, now with memories of the future, is the man who sacrificed himself after hiding the Emperor's symbol, the White Dragon Pearl. His other target is the fourth princess, Sicily Epiphania, the one who made Arthur an emperor, in name only to one day hand him the throne she conquered. Sergun has already tried to eliminate the troublesome Sicily. If she becomes empress, the empire will suffer a devastating collapse, and its fall will unleash a tide of corruption upon the world. To prevent the end of the world, he needs to interfere with her plan and steal her ability. He asks the crow for help, instructing it to return to its normal activities and act on the information it received. The crow agrees to help this time, as it was its own decision to lend its power. The crow asks what to do with the hypnotized man, and the answer is that he has already served his purpose. So the crow decides to make him one of its servants for now and flicks a feather at his face. The man begins to babble unintelligible words. The crow orders him to return to his place, and the man obeys and withdraws. The time has come to use their appearance to his advantage. They will find the real Night Crow, who is hiding in the tournament finals. Two strange-looking youths appear, and one of them is named Crage. One of them survives by eating trash in the city sewers. A member of the Night Crows confronts them, promising to teach them a lesson. This is the real Night Crow, shrouded in a macabre aura. In the main event of the martial tournament, in the round of 32, the protagonist takes down another opponent. The winner of the match is announced as Crash. The crowd erupts in cheers, chanting the name Night Crow after his victory. A spectator admits he was tired of watching kids fight, but thanks to him, the tournament has become interesting. It is almost time for the real Night Crow to finally appear. The girl comes to watch, even after being warned not to come. That night, with the preliminaries over, she asks if he was the one who destroyed them. She is surprised to realize he is just a child. He finds her expression strange when he confirms that he is indeed a boy. She plays it off, but acknowledges that his life is unusual. He asks if something happened and warns her to protect herself. Tomorrow is the day of the main event. As they prepare for sleep, The girl reflects on his words. She suspects something happened in her absence and wonders how he got that information. This makes her question the reliability of the royal spy the woman hired. As a precaution, the princess's aide decides to check everything again. She concludes that if Sisley is still around, even after the warning, it is because she has already figured out Sergen's plan. That is why he finds the name Night Raven so imposing. He and Kreen wait for the real Night Raven, wondering if the enemy knows about the ruse. He arrives at a catacomb and a voice suddenly catches his attention. The figure asks if he is enjoying pretending to be the Night Raven. The situation is similar to his previous encounter with the mummy boy. On that occasion, he said he did not expect the Night Raven to reveal himself so soon. Suddenly, the figure draws 2 daggers and begins to spin them deftly. In the blink of an eye, the attacker vanishes from his sight. He reappears with twin blades, but his target dodges with a simple tilt of the head. In response, he moves in with bare hands to immobilize the Night Raven. With a swift move, he grabs both of the enemy's wrists, declaring that this will not be a problem. The Night Raven, however, lets out a scream as its face twists into a grotesque expression. Unexpectedly, a blade erupts from its shoulder. 2 large blades burst from the Night Raven's shoulders and it begins to laugh maniacally. Immediately after, he lands a powerful kick on his opponent. Despite the impact of the kick, he manages to shatter the blades. He then lands a devastating blow to the Night Raven's face. He and his crow declare the attack futile, explaining that forbidden arts fueled by corruption do not affect him. The Night Raven's true identity is revealed. It is Iboliski. Iboliski reveals that Sergan holds her heart captive and demands to know where to find her. He proposes a deal. With his help, Iboliski can get her heart back. In exchange, Iboliski must reveal every detail of Sergen's plan. The corruptor behind the Night Raven's mask is the necromancer Iboliski Bonaparte. As a corruptor, the necromancer had her heart stolen and held captive by the Empire for 1,000 years. One day, Arthur brought her in, claiming she could be useful. The Blue Generation despises corruptors. They only knew her as the world's sole necromancer, unaware of her true identity as the Night Crow. Corpses do not leak information, even if the mission fails. A necromancer who commands corpses, crows, and a family of assassins. All clues point to Iboliski. The Night Crow's identity was unknown, as the target was eliminated while still at the academy. She disappeared, possibly captured by Arthur. Dealing with her requires an aggressive attitude, a brute force approach that kicks down doors. She gets cocky easily, so he intimidates her to keep her in line. He orders her to face him, and she reminds him of his promise to find her heart. He replies that he first intends to demonstrate his abilities in person. The original target was the heart in her possession, and in that instant, he activates his ability. The Black Hood's ability pierces through the locks protecting her. With so many conditions in place, a direct approach was difficult. He tells Iboliski to entrust her heart to him. He claims he can retrieve it for her, right here, right now. Tears stream down her face as he tries to break through the locks. She declares that her trust requires more than just words, and demands he show more effort. She insists she is serious, struggling to project more confidence. He then asks if she is tired of her current life. If she gets her heart back, she can spend her days lazing around in her room, letting the corpses do all the work. But if he fails, she will have to obey the royal family and work tirelessly for the rest of her life. The prospect of more work brings her to tears. This is the power of a necromancer. He feels her activating her aura. She screams that she has already worked for over 1,000 years and begs for help, but he says she must offer her heart in exchange for her truest desire. She replies that she has no choice but to trust him, since she does not want to work anymore, and tells him he can take her heart. He smiles. Iboliski is finally free, and he succeeds in stealing her ability. She begs him to save her. After all, her only wish is to live in peace without working for the rest of her life. He smiles and declares that Iboliski is free. She demands her heart back, but he orders her to fulfill her part of the deal first. He claims he will return it when everything is over. She protests, insisting she does not want to work anymore. He then questions her about Iboliski and Sergen's plans. She reveals that the 4th princess's swordmaster, Sarah Batera, is the target for elimination. Her orders are to use Sarah's corpse to eliminate Cicely and Fania, and so the Master Knight meets her end at the hands of Mary Diana. Mary Diana tells her she should be grateful to die for the Empire. She is then eliminated right in front of the Crow. Mary Diana calls Sarah Batera a mad sword and annihilates her by running the spear through her body. Iboliski receives the order to appear, a direct command from Sergan. She is also ordered to manipulate Sarah's corpse to eliminate the 4th princess, Cicely, and Fanya. A year has passed since she returned to the past. She wonders if Lord Arthur is watching her and believes that both she and Sir Gan are doing their best for him. She admits she misses Arthur. The narrative returns to one day before the destruction. On the first Saturday after the regression, Arthur asks her to meet him at 1 in the afternoon in front of the Statue of Peace. She almost jumped for joy upon seeing Lord Arthur's promise, her heart full of hope after the regression. She goes to the meeting place, but Lord Arthur never appears. Diana wonders if she will ever see Baela or Arthur again. In the present, she has been waiting for him for a year. She wonders about her lord's whereabouts. Lady Sergen told her to believe his words and wait. That way, she would recover her former strength, becoming the most powerful spear. That is why she must push herself even harder to ensure the success of this mission. A giant Belas corpse lifts Sarah's body from the ground. Ebelaski, who controls the corpse, notices something and is shocked. Ebelaski retreats, aware that they are hiding a boy as captivating as Crash Valhane. She considers it a waste that he is a corpse, and she did not expect to face him in the finals. This is Pirei, a 14-year-old commoner who looks ordinary on the outside, but she knows he is a pure-hearted boy whose dream is to achieve world peace. At this moment, he draws his sword. Pirei is a powerhouse of the Blue Generation, a fact he has not revealed to the Academy. Everyone notices that the Night Crow draws his sword for the first time, and they conclude his opponent must be strong. Pirei says he heard that no nation can interfere in the affairs of Rahian Academy. Now that they have reached the finals, their admission is guaranteed. That is why he asks Crash to abandon his life as an assassin. He claims that Crash can become a good comrade. Crash senses Pirei's kindness, but remembers a warning he received before the fight. The warning said that if he clung too tightly to hope, he would not be able to overcome despair when it came. Pirei senses Crash's rejection of his offer of peace. The judge then orders the fight to begin. Pirei uses the 10 steps of heaven technique to attack Crash. Crash recognizes the move in that same instant. He dodges with his hands behind his back, blocking the blow with his sword. Pirei realizes his fate has been completely deciphered. It is as if Crash understands his entire swordsmanship in a single instant, and all his attacks are blocked. Pirei's expression is that of someone who has just seen a ghost. After all, he is facing someone who has already died once. Crash watches Pirei and remembers that he grew up in a region where it snows all year round. It was there that he developed steps that imitate gliding on ice. There, he also created the 10 steps of heaven technique. His potential is comparable to that of Anax Glazer. Crash places the sword at his neck and advises him to get stronger. That way, even with his hope crushed, he can still leave a seed behind. Then, Crash hits him with the 1-inch punch. Meanwhile, the Crow finds the analysis interesting, and Crash wins the fight. Pirei falls after taking the blow and asks if they will meet again. Crash remembers helping Pirei in his past life. Back then, Pirei promised to work harder than anyone to protect the world, even after the curse was removed. Crash recalls the surprise he felt at the promise made after he was freed from the curse. It was the first time he had heard such sincere thanks. He replies that they will see each other again at the Academy, even defeated on the ground. Pirei is happy to know they will be friends. Meanwhile, the second prince confirms that everything has gone exactly as he planned. He believes that by using the Night Crow to attract more nobles, the throne will be his. Belask replies that she is just honoring a favor. The prince reminds her that he holds her heart and that she must remain obedient. At that moment, the judge realizes something is wrong. A group of people approaches, interrupting the event. The judge warns them, reminding them that the second prince is present. But the newcomers announce that this is an official matter. They are the Black Dragon Knights. Everyone wonders about the presence of the order responsible for punishing criminals. Lady Diana then declares the arrest of the second prince on suspicion of involvement in the murder of the fourth princess, Cicely Epiphania. He is detained immediately and begins to question the reason for his arrest. Lady Diana replies that an assassination order against the fourth princess issued by him was found in the Night Crow's hideout. The prince denies it, insisting he never wrote such an order. He asks Belask what she is doing. He then demands that she eliminate the bastards who are framing him. At that moment, Sarah Batera appears with Cicely, proving that none of them were eliminated. Sarah states that they should forget the murder accusation. After all, not even the shadow of an assassin was seen and everyone believed they were dead, which leaves Diana in shock. She realizes that Cicely, Epiphania, and Sarah are still alive. Stunned, Diana wonders what is happening. On the night Sarah was supposed to be eliminated, Cicely's intuition proved correct. Cicely warns Sarah that they cannot trust the royal spy they hired. For this reason, Sarah decides to check the information again. Hearing the warning, she finds it impossible that the spies inside the palace could betray them. Still, A bad feeling overcomes her and she goes back to speak with Her Highness immediately. The crow offers Sarah Batera the temporary power of immortality in exchange for her life force. The voice of Crash's crow echoes directly inside Sarah's mind. In that instant, she is consumed by the curse of immortality. Her eyes reveal that she has acquired the new ability. A terrible headache hits her and she wonders what the crow has done to her. Then, Lady Diana appears. At the exact moment she thinks she should fake her death, Mary Diana appears before her. Mary Diana pierces her abdomen with the tip of the spear. If the crow had not granted the power of immortality, neither she nor Cicely nor Surly would be alive. For this reason, Sarah orders the arrest of the vice-captain of the Black Dragon Knights on charges of espionage. Mary Diana realizes her entire plan has collapsed. She had brought the Black Dragon Knights, convinced that they were all already dead. Then Sarah decides to put an end to Diana and draws a sword. She advances on the woman and her knights. Diana watches the vice-captain get killed before her eyes and wonders how it all ended up like this. She had ordered Ebelask to eliminate Sarah. Afterwards, they would use the corpse to attract and eliminate Surly and Cicely. Yet here they are acting as if nothing happened. The discovery of the spies and the Black Dragons proves the fourth princess already knew everything. That is exactly why Sergen tried to eliminate her. If she stays alive, she will become an even greater threat in the future. Diana decides to eliminate her right here and now and materializes Ebelask's heart in her hand, making the knight scream that she is a monster. She begins to squeeze the heart, forcing Ebelask to eliminate the fourth princess immediately. Suddenly, the heart disappears from her hand. She immediately notices its absence and searches her waist, but the heart is gone. She not only failed to eliminate the fourth princess, she also failed to capture the second prince, and in the process, she lost Ebelask's heart. In the end, everything Mary Diana did was in vain. The realization of her complete failure leaves her dark and desperate. Now only one option remains: to eliminate the princess with her own hands. With everyone distracted by Ebelask, she sees her only chance and advances on the princess. Then she leaps and the ground shatters beneath her feet. She uses the absolute speed technique. At maximum acceleration, she charges with her spear directly at Surly. She attacks with full force, determined to eliminate the princess. However, someone blocks the attack with a sword and their energies collide in a direct clash. Sarah Batera recognizes the man immediately. It is Crash Valheim. Mary questions how a mere corpse managed to stop her acceleration. He replies that her simplistic way of thinking has not changed at all since their past life. Shocked, she demands to know how he knows her. The second prince does not understand what is happening, but he realizes that this is his chance to escape. In that moment of distraction, Mary is captured. She is arrested by the Black Dragons on charges of attempting to assassinate the imperial family. Her arrest is announced publicly and she is consumed by rage. Even with her plan exposed, she should not have committed such a reckless act. In desperation, she cries out for help to Sergan and Arthur. The princess and Sarah ask if Crash is all right, but he admits that he is not. He admits he barely blocked that attack. Even with his black flames, his power is still far from the master level he once possessed. Immediately after, orders are given to investigate possible accomplices. Taking advantage of the confusion, they leave the scene. Before leaving, he warns Cicely to be careful. He advises her to watch her own brothers and then leaves with Ebelask without even treating his wounds. Sarah Batera asks what he was talking about, but Crash leaves before Cicely has a chance to thank him. Crash says he is going to the academy and Ebelask replies that she will accompany him to repay her debt. She hands him the golden dragon herb he asked for and asks if he has any idea how difficult it was to obtain. With the confrontation over, he returns the heart to Ebelaski. She really thought he would force her to serve him forever. She states that he is different from the other corruptors because he did not use the power of corruption to block Mary's attack. His black flames are born from the high concentration of poison in his blood. That is why she believed him, thinking he was also a corruptor and that perhaps she had judged the others incorrectly. In that moment, the conversation is interrupted by a message from a subordinate and the crow warns him. The warning is about his fiancée, Bianca. Something has happened to her. The news confirms that something suspicious has happened to his fiancée. The message from a subordinate in Hardenhearts reports that a clan of assassins has invaded the mountains. His fiancée was there at that exact moment and now she is missing. This explains the bad feeling he had upon meeting the disciple from the assassin clan. He tells Ebelaski that his fiancée is in danger and that they must leave for Hardenhearts immediately. Ebelaski questions him, surprised that a corruptor like him could have a fiancée. She remembers that the girl from the clan lives in Hardenhearts. She heard rumors that the youngest Valhan son was engaged to someone from Hardenhearts, and cannot believe anyone would marry the daughter of such a troublesome family. But the truth is that he is not a world corrupter. He reveals that Claude is not his real name and introduces himself as Crash Valhan, the youngest son of the family. The shock is so great that she drops her heart on the ground. Hearing the surname Valhan, she realizes he is the family's famous useless son. She cannot believe Claude was a Valhan all along. Meanwhile, in the territory of Hardenhearts, a temporary camp stands in the mountains. Lady Jenica Hardenhearts, the family's second daughter, regrets her decision. If she had been honest about having the sun snow mushroom, Bianca would have never climbed the mountain. Someone asks her why Lady Bianca went up the mountain. Jenica explains that Bianca could not find the mushroom in any market. That is why she decided to search for it herself and climb the mountain on her own. Days earlier, Jenica told Bianca that the useless Valhan wanted the mushroom and that she should just go home. But Bianca ignored the warning and continued her search. With a blank expression, Bianca turned to her sister and stated that Crash was not useless. Annoyed, Bianca asked why Jenica was following her, saying she should have left the search to the others. In response, Jenica offered her the sun snow mushroom. She said that this way they could both finally go home. The truth is that Jenica has always hated Bianca. Bianca, in turn, simply apologized. Her body trembled as she said it was all her fault. In that instant, the mad dog appeared. Jenica froze, paralyzed by the creature's malevolent presence. The killer reveals himself to everyone. His axe tears through the air above the field. With a single swing, he cuts down several men, tearing their heads from their bodies. A command to run echoes through the area, and the killer dog declares that he is lucky today as he cuts down another person. A warning is given for the young ladies to save their own lives. Bianca breaks into a run and orders her sister to follow. As the two hide, the mad dog comments that he did not expect to find such perfect hostages in this place. Meanwhile, the killer continues the hunt for them. Bianca reminds her sister of the promise she made to Crash to bring him the sun snow fungus, but Jenica cuts her off, demanding she stop talking about her fiancé. She declares that she does not want to lose her life in a place like this. Jenica insists there is still a way to escape since they have movement artifacts to cross the snow safely. The mad dog immediately sees their plan, stating that he knows they are trying to lure him to the glacial cliffs. He taunts them, daring them to run if they can. Bianca then points to a distant rock and says they need to jump to it. She asks if her sister is ready, knowing that a single mistake in the jump means death, just as staying there does. At that moment, the mad dog appears and comments on the danger for little girls who wander so far. Bianca pulls her sister and prepares to jump. The mad dog tries to grab them, but is shocked to see that they actually jumped. The killer wonders if they have gone mad. Then he spots the rock just below, the platform that allowed them to survive. He finds the situation extremely amusing and begins his descent to reach them. Bianca asks Jenica to trust her, assuring her that everything will be all right. Jenica is in a state of shock. Bianca leaps directly at the killer dog in midair. The two collide and she knocks him off the cliff, saving her sister. Certain that Bianca is dead, Jenica tells this story to everyone. She says that was the last time she saw Bianca. The search party replies that the place where she fell has a thick layer of snow, therefore there is still a chance she is alive. But Jenica continues to blame herself. She thinks that if she had not suggested the cliff route, Bianca would never have had to sacrifice herself. If she had been honest about the fungi at the mansion, they would have never encountered the killer. Someone then tells Lady Jenica that Bianca must be alive somewhere. The hero listens to everything in silence, while Jenica tells the young man to stop talking nonsense as a week has already passed. She argues that even if Bianca escaped the killer, she is someone who spends most of her time reading books. There is no way someone like her can survive alone in the mountains. Far away, Bianca lies in the snow, calling for Crash as her body trembles from the cold. Even in pure desperation, her only wish is to see her fiancé again. Her sister always said she would not survive in the mountains. After all, a person who only read books would have no way to withstand that environment. She mutters the name of her husband, Crash. She opens her eyes, extremely weak, and realizes she fell asleep again in the freezing cold. 4 days, she survives only on nuts and the warmth of the solar snow fungus, and her body reaches its limit. After falling from that killer cliff, she keeps climbing to higher places in search of help. Eventually, she reaches a warm place where the solar snow fungi grow in abundance. She collects several fungi that emit natural heat and uses them to survive the cold. In an unstable cave, she keeps herself warm and hidden, surrounded by the fungi and guided by a survival book. She manages to treat her wounds, but the cold, pain, and hunger drain her stamina, and she does not know if she can hold on for much longer. She clings to the hope that a rescue party is looking for her, remembering the promise she made to Crash. Finally, the killer dog finds her. He announces that her journey ends there, but the girl does not even notice his presence. Apathetic, she wanders aimlessly until she finds a nut, which she picks up thinking it was hidden by a squirrel. In that instant, an axe flies in her direction and hits a tree right behind her. The girl turns and sees the giant tree falling towards her. The tree collapses with a deafening crash. The impact throws her forcefully against the snow. Stunned, she wonders what happened, but realizes she is alive. Her expression remains empty after the attack, and her indifference bothers the killer. The killer dog did not expect Vorhan's fiancée to be so much trouble. He reflects that if she had acted like a hostage, she could have gone home in one piece. He grabs her by the neck and notices the hair ornament, a valuable piece that would fetch a lot of money. Her only thought is to go back home to her husband at the Green Pine Mansion. She remembers the happy days, reading while Crash trained, and how the time with him awakened new emotions. Even someone like her who thought herself emotionless felt happiness, and now the tears come. She understands now how precious those days were and regrets not realizing the comfort of that life sooner. She whispers that she wants to see Crash, and at that moment, he appears behind the killer. He delivers a swift blow that forces the man to release his fiancée. He takes Bianca in his arms and says she did well, asking her to leave the rest to him. She is happy to see him, but she is too weak to react. He entrusts Bianca to Crane's care and removes his hood. As he had told Belask, he could not interfere, and his servants were not strong enough to fight. His first move is to rescue Bianca, moving her away from danger. He repeats that now she can leave the rest to him. Bianca thanks him, relieved by her husband's arrival. He removes his hood to cover Bianca, and in the same instant draws his sword to face the wolf. The crow states that it has no obligation to help. He orders Krim to take care of Bianca and repeats what he said before. He cannot interfere, and his servants are not strong enough for combat. The crow directs its words to the protagonist, who understands the situation. After all, she already teleported him here. The crow warns that last time he escaped by pure luck. The assassin hound is stronger, and it questions if the protagonist is sure he can win this fight. He activates his aura, and the assassin hound demands to know who he is and why he is interfering. The hero orders him to return something as his purple energy intensifies. Confused, the wolf asks what he is supposed to return. The hero declares that the hair clip belongs to his wife. Then he calls him by his name, Assassin Hound Bergman. The assassin hound recognizes him as the brat from Volhan and lunges to attack with his axe. He holds his fiancée's hair clip and begins to threaten the hero. As the axe comes down, the protagonist blocks it with a sharp reflex. Even with his sixth sense, the hero can barely follow the enemy's movements, whose aura is at a very high level. If he takes them both as hostages, the bounty price increases tenfold. That is why the wolf decides to capture him too. Compared to him, the hero only recently reached the intermediate expert level and blocks the attacks with immense difficulty. He backs away for a moment, trying to cast a spell, but Bergman's hound does not stop attacking, forcing the protagonist to defend against everything. The hero continues to defend himself with maximum effort. Finally, he gives in, taking damage as his sword is thrown into the air. He blocks the blow, but the impact is too strong and rips the weapon from his hands. The blow sends the protagonist flying and his sword flies through the air. The weapon falls to the ground and Bergman the hound declares that the game is over. The assassin hound realizes the boy has suddenly disappeared. He cannot catch his scent and wonders where he went. The hero appears behind him, charged with energy and ready to land a blow. He unleashes his signature move, the 1-inch punch, straight into the enemy's stomach. The assassin hound's ribs shatter from the impact. His dull sword does not have enough power to expand his field of control. That is why he decides to end the fight right now using his powerful flaming sword. Assassin hound Bergman is in shock, his eyes widening as he sees the blade's transformation. Suddenly, the enemy uses the ghost snare, a technique that leaves the protagonist completely immobile. He feels a terrible pressure and doubts he can withstand it. Bergman's hound walks toward him as he slowly sinks into the snow. The search party will arrive at any moment, but before that, the hero will be eliminated by the hound. The hero falls into the ghost snare's trap. Reality distorts around him. All his senses are blocked. It is a secret technique that manipulates aura perception through sound. His old self would be defeated in an instant by such a blow, but he has already overcome this technique once using his hypersensory perception of mana flow. He activates his mind's eye to resist the attack. This is not the first time he has resorted to this power. The dog questions if he can withstand the blow, noticing his target is paralyzed. Bergman, however, is a much stronger elite fighter and knows the search party is approaching. He senses an axe strike coming from his side, but his reaction time is slow. Fear overwhelms him as he sees the blade advancing. He defends at the last second, and the dog mentions the search party. The threat to eliminate him before the party arrived was a bluff from the assassin, who now advances with his sword, leaving him terrified. By blocking the axe, he revealed a very unusual movement. Bergman does not know how long the phantom snare will hold him, so he does not approach recklessly, aware of the danger. Indeed, he breaks free and unleashes a flaming sword strike against Bergman. Bergman understands he must be more careful on his approach, or he will die. The hero shows no reaction when the dog promises to cut him to pieces to feed the pigs. The phantom snare finally takes full effect, and the boy is paralyzed once more, so he decides to keep attacking until his opponent tires and summons the phantom battle axe. An endless rain of illusory axes falls upon his head. He closes his eyes and concentrates. He blocks with great difficulty using his sword, but still suffers a few cuts. The crow realizes that at this rate, he will die, and that they should not have left him there. Ibelak, in her bird form, wonders if she should help, fearing that Bergman's master might seek revenge. Bergman's master is the mad dog who would hunt them to the ends of hell. For this reason, they just watch the scene unfold in the snow. Still, fear drives them to help. She may be a recluse, but she knows how to repay a debt, and she will not abandon her benefactor. The crow, still in his bird form, strikes her with his wing and orders her not to interfere in the fight. After all, he was the one who decided to handle this alone. He tells her to trust the man who recovered her heart because he possesses the necessary mental fortitude. She, however, fears he will die and considers resurrecting his corpse as a backup plan. Crash feels he is at his limit and starts to gasp for air. He has been reading Bergman's attacks by spreading his mind's eye across the area, but his aura is depleted and the task is becoming impossible. From now on, he must rely on his instincts and unleash more attacks with his flaming sword. The phantom axes covered in aura rush toward him. However, he realizes the axes are an illusion and the real Bergman is attacking from above. He stares at the mad dog above with the axe ready to cut him and enters a state of shock. His body begins to tremble as he realizes this could be his end. He confronts the truth about his own limits. He is weak and untalented, unlike the geniuses, which makes it impossible for him to grow stronger. That is why he developed a method to overcome this condition. Until now, he has hidden his fangs, but in this instant, he breaks a threshold he has never reached. He opens his eyes and activates Forced Breach. His hair grows in the form of a living flame. He uses flaming erosion and worthy flames to convert the energy of corruption stored by the immersion poison and surpasses the limits of human strength. In his current state, he can only maintain flaming erosion for exactly 3 seconds. His body begins to release vital fluids, a sign that he is at his absolute limit. Still, he prepares a powerful attack, declaring to the dog Bergman that he will end the fight before his time runs out. The killer dog cannot track his movements with its own eyes. He senses the attack will be fatal and in response uses the illusory scream. The protagonist moves in for the strike, but the wolf reacts with its scream. He aimed for the neck, but missed the target because of the desperate scream the dog let out. The ability to turn sound into aura distorted his vision and threw off his aim. The dog Bergman coats his left hand in aura to unleash a powerful strike. He screams, demanding that the hero finally die. His mental eye warns him that the effects of flaming erosion are fading and that the claws are about to cut off his head. Then he activates his Curse Steel ability. He refuses to die in this place and rips off the mad dog Bergman's arm. The enemy screams in pain as he sees his arm is gone. He opens his eyes, emanating an overwhelming energy. The Crow Crim recognizes the nature of this power. In this extreme state, his concentration reaches the domain of fusion with the world and he becomes completely enveloped in energy. He moves in an incredibly fast zigzag. Drops of liquid fall on his arm. He sees through his own muscles right down to the bone. He feels every drop fall and sees his body like an X-ray image. His extrasensory perception reaches absolute mode and the dog Bergman's mask is destroyed. With a brutal strike of his sword, the hero cuts him in half. The enemy's presence vanishes, wiped out by a single strike. The girl and the crow celebrate Crash's victory, who shattered his enemy. Crim is utterly shocked as he witnesses the hero's power. The strong defeat their enemies without suffering a single scratch, but for the weak to overcome the strong, a great sacrifice is required and the hero loses his right arm. The hero is on his knees, his severed arm on the ground emanating a corrosive energy. The Crow Crim asks if he is finally satisfied. He loses blood and collapses to the ground, buried by the snow. Strengthless but victorious, Crim warns that they must return return immediately. Evlaka's corpse gathers them to begin the journey back home. If Bianca could express emotions, perhaps the world would not seem so grey to her. The hero appears in a suit in a vision that seems to be from the future. She questions what would be worse, to feel everything or to feel nothing. He believes that if she were to blossom in her current state, the shock would destroy her. She asks if he would care if she died, since they barely know each other. Crash replies that the decision was his family's, not his. De Grayson harden hearts. The head of the family goes mad and beats everyone before taking his own life. Bianca is the only survivor. Jenna, the second daughter, saves her. In response to the tragedy, House Valheim annuls the marriage alliance and breaks off Crash and Bianca's engagement. That meeting is arranged only as a last goodbye, as the hero knows they will never see each other again. He says she should see this as a warning and that he would not be there if she gave up on living. The girl watches him with total apathy. Then he uses the curse-stealing ability on her. His hand swallows the curse that afflicts the girl. Absorbing such a great curse would neutralize an ordinary doll instantly. Opening his eyes, he asks how she is feeling. On that day, for the first time, Bianca frees herself from the snow doll curse, only to discover that the world is a cruel place. In the same instant, she recovers her lost emotions. Something inside her transforms and she becomes a monster. 3 years later, a war breaks out in the territory of the Ardenhards. A man of the family claims that the kingdom of Starn would be at peace if not for the Orphania Empire. It all happens because of the prince, who possesses information capable of shaking the empire. To stop him, the Empire sends the Poison King. The Poison King goes mad and causes a massacre, starting the war. In revenge, the White Phantom eliminates the Sovereign. While they discuss the isolation of the Ice Pavilion, soldiers from Starn launch an attack. They are in charge of the frontline supply depot, and the hero wonders how they could have been so careless. He attacks several at once, but the soldiers pursue him for being a member of the Blue Generation. The hero runs through the snow, having used the curse so much that not even a saint can cure him. With no other choice, he runs to Bianca's fortress to ask for help. He pounds on the door, begging her to open it. She opens the door just as the hero conjures ice spikes to stop the army on his heels. The ice spikes pierce through the enemies and he eliminates them to stay alive. Bianca opens the door and remarks that it has been a long time since they last saw each other. She casts ice spells at the approaching men. The ice spikes take them all down. Her ice magic pierces the bodies of the enemies. It has been a long time since he and Bianca have seen each other. Now she appears in a monstrous form, a sword embedded in her chest. Suddenly, Bianca collapses in front of Crash, who watches in horror. The wound was inflicted by the Poison King's daughter. Bianca asks him to remember the question she asked before about what is more painful, having emotions or not. She recalls the day of the incident when her sister, Jenica, confessed that she never truly hated her. Jenica only hated herself for feeling hatred, and said that Bianca was not a child who deserved any of it. Her sister wanted to be able to show the sadness she felt and shed tears. At the time, young Bianca listened to everything without showing any reaction. Because she had no emotions, she felt trapped inside a coffin. Back then, without emotions, she could not understand the meaning of those words. It was a complex and contradictory feeling. Even when the hardened hearts crumbled, she suffered, but she felt nothing. Now that she knows emotions, she finally understands her sister's words. Her sister truly loved her, even while showing hatred. If only her emotions had awakened sooner, everything could have been different. They could have shared their sadness as a family, and the end would not have been the same. And maybe, with Crash, they could have stayed together. Now on her deathbed, she thinks they could have stayed married. Crash watches the scene in silence, overcome with sadness. Back in the present, he wakes up, remembering everything that happened in his past life. Bianca presses a hand against her own wounds. She says she is by Crash's side and the crow is glad he has finally woken up. They realize they are in the Ardenheart house. Bianca asks if his arm still hurts. Crash asks if they climbed the mountain alone, because if Queen had not warned him, he would not have made it in time. He starts to get up in pain, remembering something, and picks up the snowflake-shaped hair clip that belongs to Bianca. He places it in her hair and apologizes for not wrapping the gift. She thanks him, saying that now she can finally make him a snack. Then, Bianca calls out to Crash to tell him something. She says she has no emotions, and yet she tried her absolute best to save him. She cannot feel joy, anger, or sadness. That is why she feels so frustrated she cannot stand it anymore, and she does not want to be this way in moments like these. She says she wants to smile and cry by his side. She wants to feel anger with him when the situation calls for it, but she would hate for his emotions to disappear like hers if he cannot smile. Then she does not want to smile either. Hearing Bianca's declaration, Crash breaks into a smile. He says she does not need to worry, since the curse's effect is halved for anyone who is not the direct target. Hearing this, she asks Crash to bring back her emotions. He replies that she did not even need to ask, as he will obviously do what she wants. The second condition is unlocked, and he becomes the most important person in Bianca's life. And so, another lock on the curse breaks, allowing him to advance his plan to steal her. This has always been his plan from the very beginning. The girl also feels something changing inside her. He extends his hand toward Bianca. With a smile on his face, he reaches out and promises that he will do this for her. If she could express her emotions, she would be hugging him. She would also be crying a lot if the curse did not prevent her from feeling. At least the world does not seem so grey, a phrase she often repeated in her past life. We see Bianca suffering from a cold. He asks if she is feeling any better. Her impassive expression has returned, and she again struggles to show what she feels. When Janica Hardenheart asks Crash if she may come in, he allows his fiancée's sister to enter. She asks what happened to Bianca's eyes. Janica explains that their brother asked her to invite Bianca to lunch, and brought food since Crash cannot move. He finds it strange that she wants to act like a family. He recalls that in their past life, Janica did not even look at her sister. She only apologized much later, and now he wonders if history will repeat itself. Bianca stands up, visibly sick. He tells her that if Janica tries to change her attitude, Bianca has no obligation to forgive her, and can ignore her if she does not like it. He promises that when this is all over, they will go home together. She tries to process her fiancé's words. Then, for some reason, the girl panics. She puts a hand to her face and tries to say something. She uses her fingers to force the corners of her mouth up, saying she is happy and that she is smiling. Janica says goodbye to Crash, and they agree to see each other later. He asks Ebelask to lend him his ears for a moment. He wants to listen in on the conversation between Bianca and her sister. He warns that if they say one wrong thing to her, he will sink the entire place, no matter who is watching. The crow questions if he really thinks he can steal its immortality in his condition, and remarks how bold he is for a returner. He tells the crow not to provoke him, as a wound like this can be healed in an instant by a saint from the Holy Land. The Holy Land of Freeman, one of the 4 great nations, is where the saint with the divine power to resurrect the dead lives. The crow doubts House Val would spend a fortune on a saint to heal someone as useless as him, and suggests they replace him with a better right hand. The crow, Krim, tries to understand what Val means by replacing his arm. He wonders if this was the reason Val recruited Balask, who could easily stitch on the right arm. In his rat form, Balask knows it will be simple to stitch a corpse's arm onto his body. The crow asks if Val plans to use Balask for all he is worth, concluding that regresses are a bunch of cold calculators. Krim questions who told him about the arm, and if he really believes he can fix it. He answers that it was the sword demon, leaving the crow in a state of shock. Krim asks in disbelief if he truly found the remains of the sword demon, the legendary swordsman who once shook the world. A master of the quick draw, known for killing enemies before they saw his blade, he is Crimson's most valuable subordinate, and the crow does not want Val to get near. Val states that he needs to become stronger, and that Krim must help him in the same way he helped the sword demon. The crow refuses, but Val insists, saying he knows Krim cares about all of his subordinates. He explains that finding the weakness of the Crimson Garden, the main body, is in fact very simple. The Crimson Garden sees the world through the eyes of its subordinates, and that is why Krim unconsciously becomes attached to them. Arthur had the saint by his side. If she kept healing the subordinates while he tortured them, the Crimson Garden itself would eventually reveal its location. He remembers thinking it was insane, exactly as Arthur had predicted back then. He uses this logic to persuade Krim, mentioning that the sword demon died of old age. Val argues that by transplanting the sword demon's arm onto himself, he can bring the legendary technique back to life. The crow considers that this is what the sword demon would have wanted if he was still alive. Krim gives in and tells Val to wait for just 2 days. Val thanks him, but Krim warns him not to use his real name when he wants something, and then leaves. With that, the matter of his severed arm is about to be resolved. Now, he just needs to observe the reaction of House Valhand to the news he sent, and align his story about the arm with the Hardenhearts. He also worries about the butler, Ariad, who will soon discover his presence in Harden, despite being told he was at the Green Pine Mansion. If it comes to that, he will simply tell the butler to mind his own business. Still, a bad feeling about all of this washes over him. Elsewhere, Bianca refuses a request. Her brother demands that she stop acting like a spoiled child, and hand over the position of fiancé to Janica. Mary Oaken Hardenhearts argues that the useless one defeated Bergman, and that Crash's true power will be a trump card for the family. She refuses to give up her position as the fiancée. It is the one thing in the world she is determined to protect. Her brother retorts that she will not be able to keep the position, calling her a cursed girl who will be thrown away once he gets tired of her. Jenica stands up angrily, saying her brother is going too far. He says with irony that if Jenica feels so guilty for Bianca, then she should marry him instead, since she is an adult and needs to think about the family. Bianca replies that she does not care what happens to the house, because there has never been a place for her among the Hardenhearts. Her father and her brother never cared about her, so her decision is made. Even if she is cast out and loses everything, she will stay by Crash's side. Her brother, Mary Oaken, explodes in fury and screams at Bianca. At that moment, someone appears. Mary Oaken says he is busy, and the conversation is abruptly interrupted. Crash appears, stating he heard something in the hallway he could not ignore. The older brother warns him, saying he should be resting because of his injuries. He lays out two rumors that are spreading. The first says Crash saved his fiancée and defeated the killer hound, which cost him an arm. The other rumor claims the security of House Hardenhearts is so pathetic, it could not even stop the creature, and that they allowed a direct descendant of House Valheim to be placed in mortal danger in the Patriarch's absence. He intimidates Lord Mary Oaken, certain he understands which of the two rumors sounds more convincing. He proposes a simple solution. Mary Oaken must let Bianca do as she wishes, as the decision to continue or end the engagement is hers. Mary Oaken thought Crash just wanted to leave Hardenhearts, but he has no intention of abandoning Bianca and does not care about the curse. The Lord refuses to believe they have truly formed such a bond. Faced with Crash's insistence, Mary Oaken gives in and decides to leave Bianca in his hands. Crash then asks if the priest of Hardenhearts can truly heal his arm. The results will be visible in 2 days, which presents a good opportunity for the priest's reputation. Mary Oaken agrees and promises to inform Crash as soon as the treatment's results are revealed. Jenica observes how her sister Bianca has changed, and how she seems truly in love. Elsewhere, a man with a fully stitched arm reads a letter. With long white hair, the man thinks of Crash. This man is the patriarch of the Valheim family. 2 days later, in an open field in Hardenhearts, Crash is training. He combines the Sword Demon's quick draw art with the single strike skill, focusing his aura into the extreme blood immersion poison. He tries to execute the movements with only one arm, but finds it enormously difficult. He thinks that the reality of being useless has not changed. Still, he feels relieved that the Snow Doll's curse worked, neutralizing the flow of the immersion poison. The flaming erosion burns the energy of worldly corruption absorbed by the poison, which makes it possible to force the body's limiters to break. This allows for the use of immense firepower by using worldly corruption as fuel, but there is a price to pay. The instant the skill ends, the user is incapacitated, as the flaming erosion pushes the body's internal heat to its limit. He concludes he cannot use the technique for long, at the risk of burning his organs, and that he needs to regulate the heat to extend its duration. He remembers a person amidst the flames who used an icy energy. That man uses the yin energy of the moon. The man turns, revealing red hair and a body covered in bandages. This memory leads him directly to his next objective, the dark lunar physique of the Flame Emperor, Aslan Ygritte. As soon as his arm is healed, he will steal that man's curse. He arrives at a giant tree and recognizes it as the home of Ibalask. He and the crone knock on the door. Ibalask's servant number 8 opens the door and welcomes Crash. He notices the servant's rabbit ears, not understanding why. The inside of the place is identical to his last visit, and he wonders if she used her ability to connect the spaces. Ibalask reveals that everything is prepared for his arm transplant. He stares at the Sword Demon's arm and is terrified by the sight. She states that the procedure is not impossible, but warns that the pain will be immense and offers to render him unconscious if he is afraid. He replies that he is used to pain and cannot ask her to stop in the middle of the process. Servant number 8 prepares the gurney and positions the arm for the transplant. He lies down, and the servant holds him to immobilize him during the procedure. Ibalask begins to manipulate her aura and announces that the process will now begin. The Sword Demon's arm begins to react to her energy. He feels an overwhelming pain as the regeneration and fusion of the Sword Demon's arm are completed. She then begins the final step, connecting the nerves. In that instant, he feels extreme pain and screams loudly, even with the bite block in his mouth. Ibalask is impressed that he endured the entire process without fainting. She orders the servant to stop staring and release his restraints. There is a reason he was able to withstand the pain without losing consciousness. He used the extreme immersion poison on the arm, which reacted and began to take on a normal color. However, the limb began to turn disgusting, taking on a horrific shape. If he had been unconscious, the poison would have spiraled out of control, so he used his consciousness to regulate the process and allow the aura to accumulate. At that moment, he manages to use the extreme immersion poison in his blood to make the arm return to normal, and his arm regenerates completely, returning to a normal appearance. The crow realizes the process is over, and he feels the new limb as if it were his own arm. The crow suggests he test the arm while learning the art of the quick draw, and asks Ibelask to use her training ground. After he blackmails her by mentioning an ancient book called Harkaboon, she grants the request. She then asks number 8 to guide them to the training arena. On the way, he asks the servant what she knows about the sword demon's art of the quick draw. Krim replies that someone who claims to be a returner or a regressor should not ask about the technique with such mediocre knowledge. Crimson explains that the sword demon's quick draw may resemble his swordsmanship, but it is something very different. Normally, a quick draw technique consists of accumulating aura with the sword in its sheath, and then drawing it at maximum speed. The sword demon's technique, however, is different, as it breaks down the accumulated aura into fine particles to create a more efficient form. The granular aura particles explode, increasing acceleration and making the blade reach its limit speed while still inside the sheath. As a result, the blade explodes outward. The crow asks if he understood, and he replies that he did not. He decides, however, to try executing the technique in practice, using his sword and the new arm. The crow advises him to surrender to the memories contained in the arm, assuring him that the technique will work. The thousands of strikes from the sword demon must be engraved in the arm, and he prepares to test this theory. Confident, he gets into position and prepares to draw his sword. Krim's mastery and the sword demon's arm. Everything now comes together in him. All that remains is his will to train, to replicate the sword draw as many times as it takes. Days later, he stops his training with the demon arm. He notices an immense amount of aura gathering in his sword. The blade fills with energy, becoming heavy in his hands. His eyes gleam as he witnesses the phenomenon. He unleashes a slash with the new arm, destroying a vast portion of land before him. The servant number 8 can see the blade's trajectory with her own eyes. He realizes that the sword demon's technique should be so fast it is imperceptible. An immense beam of light begins to form. He concludes that the problem is his aura, and the only choice is to return to the Green Pine Mansion to learn more. He thanks number 8 for her company during his training. She says he should have more confidence, as a single-digit number like her possesses the strength of a master. Balask notices the silence and asks if the training is over. He informs Balask that he will return to Valheim today. He warns her that if she accompanies him, she will be captured immediately, and so she must stay where she is. He understands she is referring to the 5 elders of Valheim, the same ones who tried to enslave her. He then asks if she would mind staying, as he needs a favor. He asks her to watch a person known as the King of Poisons, so that he does not interfere with the hardened hearts. Her only task is to ensure the patriarch of the Graken family remains safe. Balask knows it will not be easy, but she agrees to protect the patriarch, and he thanks her. She seems exhausted by the number of requests, but understands she is just returning a favor. She does not even know what he could ask for in return. The servant number 8 asks if her mistress is okay with the decision, and Balask replies that she normally would have followed him. However, she admits that if she stayed with him any longer, she would start to project the image of her old companions onto Crash. Besides, the problems that follow a man like him would be harmful to her. In the end, she simply prefers to stay home and rest. Still, she fears he will get into some kind of trouble. She states that if that happens, she will show up to return the favor. The butler welcomes Master Crash on his return. Crash asks if anything happened at the mansion during his absence. The butler reports that the main house asked about his whereabouts, and he told them the young master was with Bianca. He explains that he posed as a careless servant in the reports to the main house, making it seem like the truth was discovered through his mistake. As a result, the main house suspected nothing, held him responsible for the failure, and fired him, calming the situation. Crash is pleased with how he handled the situation, noting that the butler remains as efficient as ever. Furthermore, the chief butler will arrive soon for a re-evaluation. The chief butler oversees all of Valheim's butlers, the only one capable of evaluating the direct descendants, and her results determine the treatment of the heirs. Dealing with her is a problem, but he needs the family's influence to steal the dark lunar physique from the Flame Emperor Aslan. That is why he already plans to prove his strength. Also, Lord Darling leaves a message asking him to bring the materials as soon as he returns. He thanks Ariad, who informs him there is one last thing to report. Ariad states that Lady Charlotte is returning. To be more precise, she is in young Master Crash's room, from where she leaps out the window at that very instant. She descends, using only her energy, and comments that it has been a long time since she last saw her brother Crash. He knew she would show up sooner or later, but he is still surprised. She says she nearly died of boredom from having to wait so long, revealing herself as the fourth daughter of the Valheim family. Charlotte asks if she should have taken longer, since he seems to think so. She states that she could not have taken any longer than this. He feels an overwhelming pressure, and concludes that Charlotte has probably already surpassed the master level. Then, she says she is just kidding, and that she heard he fought like a hero to save his fiancée. She approaches Bianca, who remains asleep, and does not wake from the conversation. Seeing her brother back away, she says she is not going to steal his wife. She tells him he does not need to look at her like that, and he replies that he is surprised to have his house invaded without warning. Charlotte scoffs at the way he refers to the house as his own. Then, she releases more energy, and increases the pressure to intimidate her younger brother. She states that the mansion belongs to the Valheim family, and therefore, it also belongs to her. She says she only came to her own home, and yet he acts with such a pretentious attitude. She says she thought they were close, and that is why she kept his secret. He then asks if she is angry. She reveals she knows about the contract he made with a god to reach the mid-specialist level, and states that Crash has finally grown up. He realizes she has awakened her perception, a mind's eye that sees through everything. She senses something dark in him, which makes him worried. Now he understands why the assassin hound could not defeat her. It is not a mind's eye, but the power to see through the stars. The star eye sees even the world's corruption, and that is why the assassin hound's illusions did not work against her. He imagines the fight against the assassin hound, a battle where the enemy's illusions were completely useless. This means she has seen through his current state, and knows about the black flame, a flame that, according to Queen, is only visible to the corruptor himself or to one of his servants. There are few people in the world capable of identifying the power of the world's corruption, and seeing the star mark on its servants. He then understands how it works, remembering the black star he saw on the assassin hound's neck. However, he is fundamentally different from them. They are the world's corruption itself, while he only has his aura mixed with it. Most people would just mistake his condition for a simple curse. Apparently, nothing has changed since his return, but he does not lower his guard. He knows that the moment Charlotte discovers he can control the world's corruption, she will try to eliminate him. She declares her intention to try everything, to see if he shares the same greed. Then, she asks him to leave Bianca in the room, and accompany her to the training grounds. She announces she will test his skills, and her aura already manifests around her. She draws the sword from its sheath, releasing an immense pressure. He never imagined he would fight his sister, who is now on a completely different level. She warns him that she will get angry if he holds back, and demands that he attack her with full force. She supposes he must have learned some new tricks during his absence. He draws his sword from its sheath using the demonic arm. He charges at her at high speed. She taunts him, saying that 3 minutes have passed and he still has not used his sword or enveloped it with his aura. She finds it strange that he wants to attack first, and asks why he is still standing still. Seeing that he will not move, she decides to take the initiative and charges with everything she has. As she charges, he closes his eyes an instant before impact. A heat boils throughout her body, burning the world's corruption to overcome her physical limits. He sees the exact duration of that power surge. He understands that the effect lasts only 1 second. In that instant, he uses the first form of flaming erosion and the flaming strike. Covered in aura, his sister is surprised by his movement. In that moment, the two swords and their energies collide. She sees that Crash attacked with everything from the start of the fight, and yet she remains unharmed. Crash raises the sword above his head and channels energy into his body. Her aura enters its second of activation. Now he unleashes the heavenly sword strike. The attack hits his sister, and her wooden sword flies from her hands. Crash is still holding back, and her wooden sword shatters. Without a real blade, she forges a new weapon with her own aura. She condenses her aura, demonstrating her mastery as a swordswoman, while Crash activates a purple magic in his hand. He uses his ability, and a mouth materializes on the palm of his hand. He activates the black hood against his sister, Charlotte Valheim. At his current level, he cannot break through her aura. The aura blade strikes him on the palm of his hand, yet he does not retreat. Despite this, the curse of the black hood hits her. In that instant, his sword comes very close to her neck. He then declares that she is captured, and that he has won the fight. Crash uses the Black Hood's ability against his own sister. With his current strength, he cannot pierce her aura, but it is enough to make the curse reach her. The girl admits that the attack was unexpected. She reflects that Crash truly managed to touch the flow of her aura, a unique power granted by the gods, an immense current that envelops her body at all times, an absolute barrier that no one weaker or at her same level has ever touched. Crash is the first, and he even held back in the fight, using no swordsmanship techniques. But if that attack had truly connected, She could have died in that exact instant, a result that should never be possible. She talks with Ariadne, worried about Crash's arm, which seems to be completely healed. Crash mentions that he will go to Rayhern Academy, but right after the mock battle, he loses consciousness. There are only 3 weeks left until enrollment, and she says that is plenty of time, deciding to go on ahead to wait for him. A few days later, at the Danfelian alchemy workshop, the elixir is complete. Darling hands over the vial, and Crash acknowledges her great skills, while Krim asks for a nearby training ground. He asks Darling if he can use his training ground, and the alchemist agrees to the idea. Crash then asks about a type of medicine he had mentioned. Crash Valheim holds the medicine as he enters a state of meditation. Taking the pill is a simple act, but he tries to understand Krim's reaction, who starts to laugh. He ingests it without knowing what it is, an elixir called the Crying Dragon Pill. The legend says that a dragon must scream 9 times to be born, and just as muscles tear to grow, the pill destroys the body strength. The goal is evolution. Krim states that he is already used to the pain, and will endure the pill to become stronger. At that moment, the crow lets out a loud laugh. Crash starts to feel an internal heat, but for now, the sensation is not unbearable. He remembers having felt like he was inside a furnace, and the current heat seems mild in comparison. He says he has been through worse, and mocks the crow for thinking he could not endure this pain. The crow asks what kind of life he has lived, and Crash replies that he cannot explain. He reaches a point where he absorbs as much as he can, and the more he concentrates, the higher the absorption rate. Krim notes that his concentration is truly incredible. After all, this is a man who endured the agony of his organs burning, and his nerves being remade. Of all the returners Krim has ever seen, he is the most different. Enduring this pain is what makes him obsessed with his goals, and if one day he reaches his limit, Krim will be forced to lift him up again, because that is the promise the two of them made. The protagonist feels as if he is submerged, realizing the nature of his aura. What was once a mere puddle has now transformed into a vast lake. Before, he could only refine the quality of his aura with secret techniques, and there was a clear limit to the increase of his total energy. But after the Weeping Dragon Pill, he ascends to the level of a high-level expert in an instant, skipping the intermediate stage, and reaching the realm of geniuses. He feels satisfied to finally be on the same level as the prodigies. He then manipulates his newly expanded aura in its entirety. The crow comments on his stubbornness, noting that using Ignis to burn away the pill's impurities was a good idea. He replies that he has to be stubborn, otherwise he would stand no chance against stronger opponents. This includes Krim the crow himself. Hearing Crash's words, the crow agrees. Darling appears, saying Bianca wants to see him, and asking if he is finished with what he was doing. His fiancée decides to keep him company, and appears right after. He tells her that from now on, she should wait somewhere more comfortable while he trains. Darling watches the scene, and reflects that having a fiancé seems very nice. He then suggests that maybe he should get engaged to Charlotte as well. When Crash threatens him, Darling simply replies with another flirt. Darling watches him with admiration, and asks if he will enroll at Rayhern Academy next year, receiving a confirmation. Hearing the answer, he decides he will enroll first, because he wants Crash to call him senior. He explains that he did not go to the same academy as Charlotte last year, because the institution requires very high grades. Students only advance to the next grade if they do not fail their exams, and he asks if Crash is ready to enroll. He concludes that this is the perfect chance to be by Charlotte and Crash's side. Crash asks if his sister will also go to the academy, as he thought she was busy fighting corruption around the world. Darling admits it is just a hunch, and that he does not actually know if Charlotte will really enroll this year. He then hugs Crash, telling him not to feel lonely, because time will fly by and they will meet at the academy. Crash reacts with disgust, ordering Darling Danfelian to get away from him immediately. At that moment, the headmate arrives for a visit. She announces that Lord Crash has returned to the Green Pine Mansion. She turns to a subordinate and gives an order. He is to inform the Green Pine Mansion that Lord Crash's examination will be held in 1 week. She stares at her reflection in a sword's blade, her expression filled with great expectation. The headmate takes her leave, letting out a restrained laugh. She states that she is looking forward to the examination, and to witnessing how much Crash has grown. Arriving at the Green Pine Mansion, Crash is met with a surprise. He comes face to face with the headmate herself. He greets her formally and asks how she is doing. He reveals that the woman is his great-aunt, Catherine Valhern. He comments that he heard about the need to retake the exam, even after defeating the master-level killer dog. He attributes the victory to luck, and concludes that he cannot avoid that conversation. She presumes that if he cannot reach Charlotte's level, he will give up the position of family head. The prospect of having to give up the position leaves him in shock. With the world's destruction by corruption approaching, strength becomes more important than lineage, ushering in an era where the strong, even commoners, can become emperors. Although it is natural that such a future cannot be imagined now, the current situation is so trivial it is almost comical. He begins to laugh, leading his great-aunt Catherine to question the reason. He questions if becoming the head of Valheim is a challenge worthy of the strong, and decides to proceed with the exam. His question offends Catherine. To her, he seems like a completely different person from who he was a year ago. He states he has already reached the expert level, and that he will pass the exam if he can force a master to retreat a single step. He does not believe it will all end with a single step, but tells her that as a master there is no reason to worry. The hero begins to draw his sword from its sheath. He takes a stance that surprises his great-aunt as he unsheathes the blade. It is a fast draw technique, reminiscent of the sword demon stance. That man's fast draw was unmatched, but he is no longer among the living. She is in shock as she witnesses the hero's movement. The hero channels a powerful aura, which vibrates intensely inside the sheath. There is no doubt. That is the sword demon stance. She sees the spirit of the sword demon manifest behind him, and then she understands everything. The hero grits his teeth and exhales, releasing a burst of mana as he draws the sword from its sheath. He uses the first sword technique and unleashes the strike. The waves of energy surge toward Catherine, who reacts by drawing her own sword. She grips the sword firmly and acknowledges that his move was good. She wonders where he learned such a technique. She positions the sword in front of her, preparing to block. She moves her blade to intercept the hero's attack. With a single slash, she dispels the wave of energy and states that he is no longer the same person. The clash of the blows generates a powerful shockwave. She smiles upon realizing she is unharmed, but in that same instant, something surprises her. Her sword shatters completely. Even though it is an ancient blade, she cannot believe what she sees and declares that he has passed. She reinforces the result, confirming that the hero passed the exam. She congratulates him on a job well done, but before she can leave, he asks her to wait. He states that he wishes to join the Sekai Knight Order of Valhan, currently stationed at the Red Magic Tower of Halgren. She questions his choice for the mid-level Sekai Order, and he confirms. She stares into his eyes, trying to decipher what he is truly planning. She informs him that she first needs to consult the Knight Commander. He thanks his great-aunt, Catherine. Exhausted, he collapses to the ground upon hearing that Charlotte endured for about 7 steps. An imposing voice echoes, bringing this information to him. It is the voice of his father, the head of the Valheim family, the Martial Emperor Balrog. His presence is overwhelming, and he notes that the hesitation in the boy's eyes has vanished. He states that Crash has grown up and orders him to rest for today. The young man does not understand why his father came all this way just to say that, and Balrog announces that they are returning to their territory. 3 weeks later, in Halgren, the free city of the Red Magic Tower, he and Bianca explore the city, observing the goods and the magic supremacists. He has already read about this place in books, the Red Magic Tower where the Flame King resides. Bianca knows him well, as he is one of the 10 strongest who became the master of the Magic Tower. This is also the home of the most dangerous of the 3 regressors, the one who inherited the memories and reached her peak the fastest. The Red Witch, Abella, possesses the magical knowledge from before the regression, and it is only a matter of time before she recovers her mana and becomes a great mage again. He cannot let her discover that he is also a regressor, so he needs to get out of there as soon as possible once his business is finished. He enters a famous shop known to only a few for the food it serves daily. He approaches Lelina to discuss the master's potion, a maid serving Aslan of the Ygritte family. He notices that she has not changed at all. She hopes that Master Aslan will be pleased, and the crow notes that the maid with the bright hair is Lelina. He has ordered Crimson to follow the maid with the bright hair to gather information. While they wait, they decide to eat. Afterward, he takes Bianca back and waits for Crim. At that moment, Crim appears flying in. He asks how the mission went, and the crow begins to report. After the events at the mansion, the grandson of the Flame Emperor, Aslan Ygritte, Crimson reports that he took his own life. The face of Aslan Ygritte is revealed after the act. People rush to cut the rope as soon as they find his body. A young woman cries upon seeing the body of Lord Aslan Ygritte. His mother begs for them to let her join him. She states that she no longer has any reason to keep living. The girl offers food to the crow, but the attempts to kill him pile up. The week before last it was poison, and last week a hanging. If this continues, the next attempt could be fatal. Suddenly, a voice emerges, offering help to solve the problem. She asks who is there and notices her crow, Crim, is fatter, a sign that someone has been feeding him. Our hero reveals himself, accompanied by his own crow, and introduces himself as Crash, the youngest son of the Valheim family. She recognizes the name of the most powerful martial family in the kingdom of Stalon, and questions why the son of such a prestigious house is listening to other people's conversation. He claims he overheard by chance, and thought he could be helpful. He reveals the true reason for Aslan's anguish. His loss of the will to live is due to the disappearance of Dorothy, a student at the Magic Academy. She is astonished by the revelation, as only a few people in the family knew that secret. He continues, questioning why they would hide the disappearance of an ordinary girl, and concludes that there is something very strange about it. From another perspective, he observes that the world's corruption and the corrupted species are constantly evolving. Because of this, forbidden areas like the Spirit King's forest have expanded, but the girl does not understand why he is talking about this. He explains that the Spirit King's forest evolved and produced all of this, revealing that this is Dorothy's true identity. That is why the deputy head keeps her existence a secret. The girl then asks why she is hearing all this, since she is just a maid. Our hero replies that he watches her every day, going to a distant dining hall and worrying about Aslan even when she is alone. He believes that finding someone like her is the only way to save Lord Aslan. Crash reveals that, although Aslan may not know it, he was saved by him once in the past. Aslan saved him from the flames, because he did not want to lose him. To repay that favor, he asks her to help Lord Aslan, promising he will bring Dorothy back from the Spirit King's forest in a few days. Spirits are corrupted creatures that threaten the world from the forests. On the outskirts of Halgran, the Red Magic Tower acts as a great barrier fighting on the front lines. To stop the forest's advance, the head of the family wonders why he was chosen to enter, under the pretext of a forbidden investigation. Safina, the team's fourth-class investigator, is under surveillance by the main house. Our hero informs them that he will join the Sekai Knights in Halgran, which would be another problem for them to handle. He receives the investigator's badge, and she warns him that although his subordinate is competent, there are places unauthorized people cannot enter. She introduces herself as Milsis, a third-class investigator from Sephra, and informs them she is accompanying Cloud, a fourth-class combatant. The luminous dust from the spirits is thicker, and they must be extra careful as they enter the forest. Our hero realizes something has been strange since the day before, a feeling that is out of the ordinary and deeply unsettling. The story goes that a long time ago, a subordinate of the Ygritte family led a spirit out of the forest. That subordinate and the spirit traveled the world, giving rise to the story of the first spiritualist. Our hero recognizes the legend of the chaos spirit and its spiritualist. In that instant, a monster emerges from the shadows behind him, growling the name Agni. The story goes that when the first spiritualist left this world, the chaos spirit did not understand and believed it had been abandoned. The spirit lost control and destroyed an entire city in a single night. The Ygritte family took responsibility, but since then, making contracts with spirits has become taboo. They came to be treated as creatures to be exterminated. Kaowen states that his goal is to return to the forest and recover his original form. The creature seems to have lost all reason. Now only pure aggression remains in this chaotic spirit. The subordinate is just a child, so he decides to handle the problem himself. However, his current body has no combat skills and his only option is to flee. Several attacks are launched against the creature. He realizes he does not need to flee in attacks with his sword. After all, he is the one who defeated the spirit of chaos in his previous life. He thanks the creature for guiding him to the entrance of the forest. He charges at the creature and, using his sixth sense, continues the assault with his sword of fire. Before the regression he struggled, since only skill attacks worked. Now, however, he possesses Ignis, the most aggressive of all flames, which reduces everything it touches to ash. He attacks now, before the world is fully corrupted and the spirit of chaos grows even stronger. The blow strikes the green creature, which immediately begins to thrash. Compared to the past, a single strike is more than enough to defeat the monster, splitting it in two. He concludes that the spirit is weaker than he expected. Its passage through the forest must have partially purified it. He begins to absorb the power of the spirit of chaos, including its incredible regenerative ability. The creature finally dies when its spiritual core is destroyed and he absorbs it with his ability. Now he can absorb the power of the corruption, without the need to destroy it completely. The creature's core is completely absorbed. His ability, the Black Hood, captures the curse of Agni. The curse enters his hand and is completely assimilated. He calls for Crimson Garden, who accompanies him on this mission. It is the creature's final farewell, as it whispers the name of Igni one last time. She wanted to speak with Agni one more time. She waited all this time, because she believed Agni would never abandon her. The girl thinks of Agni and a wave of sadness washes over her. She remembers a time when Agni would hold her. Crimson Garden laments the farewell. He decides not to interfere, as his role is simply to observe the world through his subordinates. He says that he still cannot forget the presence of Agni and asks if that is why Crimson came to see him. Instead of caring for the subordinate with a limited life, he thinks Crimson should have taken care of him instead. The being replies that for that to happen, he should have relied on the help of others. He admits that he did not realize and apologizes. After expressing his regret, he vanishes into thin air and the crow returns, feeling lighter. The girl, Lilina, asks if the crow is not well fed and if he can see Lord Aslan. Lilina asks if he has found a way to locate Dorothy, and he confirms that he has. To summon her, he will need the help of Miss Lilina and Lord Aslan. He will give her an artifact capable of bypassing the mansion's defensive magic. When everyone is asleep, he will go to Lord Aslan's room. Because he possesses the dark lunar physique, his day and night cycles are reversed. At that moment, he hears someone enter and thinks it is Dorothy. The hero realizes that the man is completely distraught from insomnia. He then asks if Aslan wishes to see Dorothy. Aslan Ygritte replies without hesitation that he needs to see her immediately. The hero states he can grant his wish, but only if he sacrifices everything. Aslan assures him he will do anything, and the hero declares the deal is sealed. First, he must give up the dark lunar physique. Then, he must promise to sacrifice himself in the spirit forest within a few days. In exchange, he will bring Dorothy back to life. The hero demands that he give up the dark lunar physique and promise to sacrifice himself in a spirit forest in a few days. Only then will he bring Dorothy back from the dead. Hearing the proposal cornered, Aslan thinks he is dealing with a demon. The hero replies that the comment is rude, since a real demon would have already torn off his limbs. Aslan reveals he was already planning to die, so the sacrifice does not matter. He considers the terms fair, and asks if the other man knows what the dark lunar physique is. The hero demands that he give up the dark lunar physique, and promise to sacrifice himself in a spirit forest in a few days. Only then will he bring Dorothy back from the dead. Hearing the proposal cornered, Aslan thinks he is dealing with a demon. The hero replies that the comment is rude, since a real demon would have already torn off his limbs. Even so, he shakes the hero's hand, showing his trust and asking for more details. Aslan Ygritte trembles in his room. He is an heir to the Ygritte family, masters of fire magic. However, Aslan cannot use fire magic due to his dark lunar physique. For this reason, he is removed from the line of succession, deprived of the affection of his own family. His grandfather scolds Agatha, Aslan's mother, for insisting the boy is her grandson and cannot lose his right of succession. He corrects her, calling her acting head Agatha Ygritte, and asks if she will let the family and the red magic tower fall just to spoil her grandson. He states that none of this would have happened if she had not married someone with yin energy. The grandfather mentions the rumors about a girl named Bella in the red magic tower, a young woman with great talent for fire magic. He suggests that if she does not intend to have another child, she should adopt the girl as her own daughter. Before leaving, he asks harshly if Agatha Ygritte understood his orders. Then, he turns to Aslan and calls him a useless boy. He adds that if his grandson had at least half of Bella's talent, he could be the successor. Young Aslan promises to work harder in his training, hoping his grandfather will acknowledge him. His mother warns him that effort will not be enough, reminding him that his grandfather even eliminated Aslan's own father. From that moment on, she says he needs to fight as if his life depends on it, just to survive. From that day forward, to ensure Aslan would not be eliminated, acting head Agatha began to treat her beloved son with extreme harshness. This is why, in the future, Aslan became the man the hero met, a man who cried out for vengeance, his body entirely covered in wraps and bandages. Driven only by family, the grandfather moves to take revenge on the Flame King, who took something precious from him. After burning the dark physique along with his own body, Aslan abandons his family and becomes the Emperor of Flames, surpassing his grandfather. Aslan's mother flees the scene in desperation, while the grandfather tries to eliminate his son. Suddenly, someone appears, leaping over his horse. The figure strikes with a heavy sword, interrupting the Flame King's blow and saving Aslan. His intervention seeks to prevent Aslan from being hit by the flame strike. He draws an enormous sword from its sheath and throws Aslan away from danger. In that instant, Lilina catches Aslan, saving his life. Lilina appears accompanied by the Crow Queen. She reveals that in her pocket are a letter from Crash and Dorothy's crystal. Aslan and Ygritte take the paper from Lilina's pocket. She instructs them to follow the crow to a shining lake and place the crystal in the water, where the Spirit King's egg will bring Dorothy back to life. Lilina, however, still appears to be upset. She explains that stealing Dorothy's crystal only required luring the acting chief. Aslan Ygritte wonders if Crash is all right. Crash appears unharmed, holding his sword. He says he does not understand why Aslan wants his dark lunar physique, but states he will hand it over if necessary. He instructs him to take the power and begins to release the dark lunar physique. After this, all the seals break, allowing the protagonist to absorb the curse. Crash appears without a single scratch, sword in hand. He insists that he take the power immediately and begins releasing the dark lunar physique. A vortex of energy forms as the chains shatter, releasing the ability. The head of the family, the Flame King, is in a state of shock. He realizes the young man's energy has suddenly grown stronger and is shocked to recognize him as the worthless one from the Valheim family. The young man confirms his identity. He is Crash. Then, he adds that he is Aslan's friend. The Flame King can hardly believe the young man's sudden burst of energy. When he asks who the intruder is, Crash Valheim introduces himself, leaving him even more shocked. He recognizes him as the failure of the Valheim family, and to make matters worse, a friend of his grandson, Aslan Ygritte. The Flame King begins to laugh at the declaration, commenting that the young man's sinister energy is just a condensed curse. He claims he is already busy with his grandson and tells Crash to leave, as he has no intention of fighting the Valheim family. In a lightning-fast move, Crash appears behind him, reminding him that he is one of the 10 strongest in the world, and yet, he unleashes an attack directly at his back. Crash accuses him of turning his back on a rookie, even though he is one of the strongest. He notes that both he and Aslan only learn things the hard way by taking a beating. Far from the battle, Aslan places Dorothy's crystal in the lake. Lelina says the young master needs to save Dorothy soon, because Crash has a chance to defeat the Flame King. He holds the crystal, remembering that it never mattered how many spells he learned. He simply could not use fire magic, making him a disgrace to his family. He considered himself useless, but now he feels like he is doing a good deed. To Dorothy, however, he was incredible, and she always asked if he was a genius. In his memories, the girl asks if he is a genius. He noticed that even though the formula was the same, her magic was very stable. He would tell her anyone at the academy could do that, but she insisted she was a failure. That is why she asked Aslan and Igor to teach her the spells from the grimoires. As payment, she would offer food from her favorite restaurant, but he saw himself as a worthless mage because he could not use magic. To someone who thought that way, Dorothy was a mysterious presence. He wondered why Dorothy wanted to use magic so badly. She thought it was fun, but he did not feel the same way. When she asks why he studied magic, he replies that it was only natural, being the son of a prestigious family. She argues that magic is difficult, and children are honest, so they cannot do something they do not want to, even when forced. In the beginning, Aslan also found magic fun, and his mother supported him. In his memories, his mother would tell him that magic would become an indispensable part of his life. He remembers that just like Dorothy, he also loved magic when he was a child. It was thanks to Dorothy that he could once again love the magic he had come to hate. He taps Dorothy on the shoulder and calls her name. The instant she turns, he kisses her. He tells her he likes her, and the girl turns completely red. She accuses him of doing things in the wrong order, but to him, she was the one who gave him a reason to live. Now, the paper airplane she used to throw is on fire. She taught him about love, and was the most important person in his life, until the day she died. In her sacrifice, she was happy that she had managed to save Aslan. He screams and cries, while Agatha asks if her son is all right. The spirit involved in the terrorist attack is now sealed in the crystal. He insists that Dorothy was not a terrorist, but was actually trying to stop the attack. He explains that when the illegal society attacked the academy and set it on fire, she was the one who evacuated the students and protected him. The crowd is enraged that he is defending the spirit, unable to believe such words are coming from the Ygritte family. His mother asks if he understands what he is saying, but he cannot stop crying for Dorothy. Looking at his reflection in the lake, he begins to see Dorothy's hair. Finally, her body emerges from the water. He embraces her, declaring she is the person he loves most in the world. They realize the Walrens have received God's blessing to give birth to another monster. The Flame King comments that his speed is not bad for a novice, already at a master's level. However, he cannot allow the boy to advance any further. The moment he goes to cast a spell, he hears a great crash behind them. The crow arrives, bringing news to Crash. He reports that the spirit has revived. The 3-second penalty corrupting his body is neutralized, thanks to Aslan's dark lunar physique. With this, he not only maintains his strength, but also compresses his power to sustain it for another 3 seconds. Thanks to Aslan's curse, he can now exert his power on a completely different scale. He begins to feel an intense heat, but he holds on because he is not done yet. The head of the Flame King family is shocked as he realizes something. Crash's body is on the verge of surpassing its own limits. He uses Flaming Erosion's second form and attacks with the Celestial Sword of Flaming Destruction. Again, he creates an effect of black flames and charges forward with his sword. This distresses the Flame King. They clash in a contest of strength, and a great torrent of flames erupts from the impact. The hero finishes the attack and begins to weaken. The Flame King manages to break through his defensive magic, and yet, he manages to wound the hero. He is a direct descendant of the Valhen, and a friend of Aslan. The hero says he knows him better than he would like. As he begins to bleed, the Flame King knows he will become someone great, someone whose name the entire world will know. If he remains by his side, he can become a leading figure in the new generation, and Aslan will bring fame to the Ygritte family. While searching for Abella, his grandson found an extraordinary person. An ice barrier rises between the two. Aslan warns that they provoke the high-level spirit, and that it is dangerous to stay there. The Flame King finds the situation strange. With his sword broken, the hero tells him to leave, asking if he has any idea how many lives will be sacrificed if the castle collapses. He tells Adolf Ygritte, the Flame King, that he is leaving the high-level spirit in his care. Adolf begins to laugh in despair. He becomes furious with the protagonist who flees the scene. He, the crow, and the others leave the place behind. Adolf asks what he just said, and the hero replies that the situation is exactly what it looks like. He warns Adolf Ygritte, the Flame King, that many lives will be lost if the castle falls. He leaves the high-level spirit for the king to face. The decision leaves the old king in shock, as everyone escapes the location. The entire group, along with the horse, enters a magical teleportation circle. Lilina says this is what he gets for being reckless, and that he has no chance against one of the 10 strongest in the world. The hero replies that an opportunity like this does not come around every day. Aslan says that he now owes the protagonist a favor. He asks what they will do now, and Aslan reveals that his dark lunar physique is gone, so he intends to return to training his family's fire magic. He chooses the harder path, aware that the patriarch will not accept it, but now he is no longer alone, as he has Dorothy by his side again. The hero calls him stubborn, and suggests that he enter Raran Academy next year. There, he can forget his family problems for a while, and still become stronger. Aslan says he needs to get stronger to protect Dorothy, and the hero assures him that he will help, because they are friends. Hearing this, Aslan and Grig are happy to have found a true friend. Aslan and Dorothy say goodbye to the hero. The hero asks Lilina why she is going with his group. She replies that she does not want to get in the way of Aslan and Dorothy's reunion. Then, she calls the hero's attention to another matter. She thanks him for saving Master Aslan, and says she will never forget what he did. The hero gets shy, says it was nothing, and asks Lilina to be careful. He says goodbye, understanding that she now owes him a debt of gratitude. He thinks about what happened before his regression, and concludes that this was the least he could do. Back at his house, in his room, Bianca tells Crash to open his mouth. The crow comments that he pushed himself so hard he broke his sword, but the hero replies that he only did what was necessary. He concludes that it is time to find a weapon that can withstand the flaming erosion. The crow says he has a suggestion, as he knows a place famous for forging weapons. The next destination is the Maisie Palace, a place the hero already knows. The palace was created by engineers from an ancient civilization to forge weapons capable of rivaling the corruption of the mechanical palace, and built by a dwarf known as the World Eater. The palace autonomously mines and processes underground resources, creating infinite treasures. This attracts adventurers from all over the world, who thrive on the byproducts of the place, and give rise to the city of Lavara. The deeper one goes, the rarer the treasures, leading explorers to form teams for the challenge. However, no one can get past the 8th floor, because of a ghost that wanders the area carrying a head and a sword. His name is Rakuten, former leader of the Black Lions and a figure admired by all. Due to the ability that gives the palace life, he cannot die. He wields the legendary sword Amaboshi, and continues to wander the 8th floor. Last time, Laken got lucky and found the sword, but he died upon entering the forbidden area where Charlotte was. But this time will be different. He will defeat Rakuten on his own and take his sword. Before his regression, he spent an entire year in the Maisie Palace with Anax's group. They went there after hearing that Laken had found the sword, but when they arrived, they only found a piece of trash who called himself the king of the place. They lost an entire year because of that bastard. He was the one who controlled the branches and attacked Laken. Anax states the man's fragile body will not last much longer, and that they need to leave, but she continues to torture him without stopping. Anax justifies that Crash is kind, but it was that piece of trash who tried to eliminate them first, and that is why she is now teaching him a lesson. This place is a lawless land, so there is no punishment. They knew exactly who they were dealing with when they messed with the Guardians. This all happens because of the boy from the Fendel Road faction, the one who declared he would defeat Hakuten. He warns him not to get arrogant just for being from Valhalla, but the hero replies that it is their fault no one wants to join their group. The leader of the Fendel Road faction is Fendel himself, who proclaims himself the king of the palace. He is a boy who has not changed at all with the timeline, always claiming to be kind and demanding an apology. Fendel claims the hero has just reached the high expert level, and therefore has no chance of defeating him. The hero replies that being almost a master is already impressive, and that he could recommend him for the Order of Valran. Even as a commoner, he possesses the skills of a near master, and the hero asks if he wants to become a Valran knight. Fendel is visibly tempted by the idea of becoming a Valran knight. If he becomes a Valran knight, even the nobles who humiliated him will kneel, as he has already gained both strength and money in the palace. He asks if the offer is serious, and the hero confirms, saying he can take his entire group and give them all an order. The group's name will be the Mutt Squad, because they are like dogs. Fendel becomes furious upon hearing the hero's words. After all, he proclaims himself a king, yet a single chance for advancement gets him excited over a pathetic promotion. Fendel warns him that it is better not to make him an enemy if he wants to pass the 8th floor. The hero retorts that if he beats him up, everyone will immediately want to join his group. Born to privilege, he does not know how to gauge an opponent's strength, and has no idea what it means to live without protection. Fendel asks if the hero's family will come after him if he fights and wins. The hero replies no, because Fendel will not even be able to touch him during the fight. The hero prepares to face Fendel, who swears to eliminate him no matter what happens. He charges at the protagonist, who begins to draw his sword. The hero unsheathes the blade and defends against Fendel's attack. Fendel notices he is using a black iron sword, as expected from a Valheim swordsman. Fendel believes he was just lucky to block the blow, as he considers himself superior in both strength and aura. Fendel attacks again, but the protagonist counters with his sword, deflecting the blow. Fendel intends to leave a mark on his neck that he will never forget. A flurry of attacks rushes toward the hero. The hero unleashes a spinning strike that repels Fendel. He realizes that was not luck. The counterattack was calculated, based on pure experience. The hero uses fire magic on his sword, a skill worthy of a direct heir of Valheim. He strikes with the flaming sword, but Fendel dodges, proving he also possesses skill. Fendel imbues his sword with green lightning and vows to show why he became the king of this place. He dashes forward at high speed, green lightning enveloping his body. The attack collides with the protagonist, who blocks the impact with his iron claw. The hero blocks the attack with a visibly heavy sword. Wielding a weapon like that demands great experience, and everyone wonders how such a young boy can wield it. The hero knows every trick and strike, a result of the countless times he challenged Onyx before his regression. His opponent threatens him, saying he will teach him a lesson. He declares he will cut him in half, along with his sword, as he summons a lightning dragon. The girl watching the fight believes he will use the green lightning dragon magic to eliminate the Valheim heir. The hero takes a deep breath, preparing his defense. He uses flaming erosion, and unleashes a slash an instant before Fendel strikes. The blow hits Fendel, who is left stunned, and in that moment the hero leaps. He uses the secret move, heavy kick, launching Fendel into the air. Struck by a powerful kick to the face, he flies through the air, consumed by pain. Everyone realizes the nobleman is stronger, and can defeat Fendel, the king of the palace. The hero introduces himself as Crash Valheim. He announces he will ascend to the 8th floor to defeat Hakuten, and asks who wants to join his team. He introduces himself, declaring his goal to defeat Hakuten on the 8th floor, and states that he is looking for allies. He says that anyone who wants to go with him, clear the 8th floor, and change history is welcome. The crowd comments on the Valheim descendants' victory, and questions if he can truly defeat Hakuten. In the crowd, a girl considers joining his team. She watches him, remembering how he pushed himself since he was young, and how he continues to do so even now. That is why she herself could never break the barrier to reach the master level. As she laments, a man named Derek approaches and asks if she is going to sign up. Derek says that despite his bad feeling, this is their last chance, and asks why she is still hesitating. Even though Fendel was defeated by Hakuten and Icarus, he grew complacent just by reaching the 8th floor. He created a team in name only, the Fendel Road faction, and spent 5 years wasting time. But Derek knows luck is different. He remembers that while everyone else just watched the defeat against Hakuten, She train hard every single day. The girl sighs, agreeing with his words. She grips the hilt of her sword tightly and affirms that she will not stop. She decides that even if disaster stands in her way, she will move forward. The next day dawns. Crash waits for the last light of Motsa Palace. If Frendel is the darkness of the palace, Lacradian is the light. In the past, she was a master-level expert and a great rival to the challengers. Before the regression, the last time he saw her, she had given up swordsmanship and was selling fruit at the market. Crash knows he cannot let Frendel go unpunished and wants revenge. He wants to steal Frendel's ability called Lioner, a lightning technique. To do that, he first needs to become the target of Frendel's jealousy. The hero is determined to fulfill the second condition as well. They will meet often in Motsa Palace, so unlocking everything is just a matter of time. The crow knows his intention is to enter the palace, but reminds him that it can only be done after gathering the team members. The moment he decides to gather his members, a figure appears before him. It is Lacradian, the light of the Motsa Palace, who asks if she can join him to conquer the 8th floor. He says there is no problem, as long as she is ready to become an enemy of Fendel. Lacradian agrees, declaring that they are just cowards defeated by Harkuten. Even after her defeat, she wishes to challenge the 8th floor again to change herself. He then welcomes Lacradian, the light of the palace. She asks him how he knows her name. He explains that he researched her name, since they will conquer the 8th floor together, and they seal the deal with a handshake. 2 days later, at the entrance of the Motsa Palace, Lacradian explains that the ground floor is a facade and that the real challenge lies underground. The journey to the 8th underground floor will take about a month, as traps await them on every level they descend. However, the party members will guide them safely through the floors. It is thanks to Lord Crash that Lacradian can challenge the palace once more. Derek, the guide, and Fenicelli, the white mage, also join the expedition. The mage, Chelli, expresses her happiness to be part of the team. If Lacradian trusts them, Crash also has no reason to doubt their skills. Derek and the mage, Chelli, are surprised by the nobleman's cordiality. Derek takes the lead, stating that he will guide them through the shortest route and leave the ranged attacks and healing to Chelli. Krim reports that Fendel's faction is on the move to compete for the conquest of the palace, to which Crash replies that it is perfect, as his rivals are delivering themselves to him. At the palace entrance, Fendel is seen shouting at his followers. He declares that they will conquer the 8th floor at any cost. Crash observes the scene and concludes that people do not change, as Fendel is still the same as in his previous life. The group begins its descent down a long spiral staircase. They notice the strange presence of windows, even though they are underground. Lacradian points to a door and warns that beyond it lies the first underground floor. On this floor, they will face monsters known as clockwork rabbits. Crash then asks Lacradian to show what she is capable of. The moment the door opens, red eyes glow in the darkness. Several rabbits emerge from the shadows, each holding a golden watch. One of them stands out with a grotesque face and red eyes. The creature opens its face, which transforms into a gaping maw, and it lets out a scream. Lacradian charges at the creature, sword in hand. Her charge is so fast that she seems to disappear for an instant. She unleashes a succession of swift cuts, eliminating the rabbits with ease. Lacradian shows a new determination to conquer the floors this time. Crash watches in surprise, as none of her movements are wasted. Compared to Fendel, Lacradian's fighting style is direct. The difference between the basic level and a master's domain is his next objective, and this is the perfect opportunity to observe it with his own eyes. So far, he has elevated his power by stealing abilities and using elixirs of the secret arts, reaching a level where he can fight a master. However, a master's domain must be achieved through personal effort. Wanting more strength is pointless if he cannot even master the basics. His attempts to imitate geniuses are useless. Lacradian, however, is different, as she built her foundation with sincere training. She reached the level of a master, and for that reason, he has a favor to ask her. He proposes that if they reach the 8th floor, he can train with her every day, using only swords and no aura to conserve her strength. The girl reacts with surprise to his request. Derek states that the idea is reckless, but she agrees anyway. The group continues to advance, and Derek laments that she accepted the proposal at such a crucial moment. Lacradian replies that his eyes were convincing. She sees in his eyes an ambition for even greater heights. Faced with a look like that, coming from someone who seeks more power, she could not refuse. The group gathers and decides to press on toward the upper floors. Outside, a figure screams, cursing the name of Valhalla. A person with a tail declares that they will go after what belongs to them. In that instant, the tigress's fury turns against the hero. He states that the Thunderstar is his, and he will not accept handing it over to Crash. The hero and his group arrive on the 6th floor of the Mass Palace. He and Lacradian fight together, demonstrating perfect synergy. More than a month has passed since they arrived at the palace, and Lacradian has proven strong enough to conquer the floors on her own. As a result, Derek and the maid Shirley have barely had a chance to participate in the fight. The stamina of the two seems endless. They reach the 6th floor without stopping, energized ever since they started training together. In Lacradian's view, Crash shows a constant eagerness to learn. Since he lacks the basics, the hero decides he will steal everything she knows. The girl is in shock upon hearing his declaration, as it is unusual for one swordsman to try and steal another's techniques. Normally, a swordsman's pride would make him hate such an attitude. In Crash's eyes, however, there is no hesitation. For the sake of getting stronger, he is able to cast aside his pride to overcome the power gap with Fendel. She realizes that if she follows Crash's example, she too can become even stronger. At that moment, Lacradian asks the hero why he so desperately wants to become stronger. Derek interrupts, warning that the 7th floor is just ahead, and that there is no time to waste. The hero then reveals the reason: the destruction of the world. He wonders if he is capable of preventing this destiny with his own power. Derek questions what the brat is talking about with the destruction of the world. He scoffs, saying that to imagine such a thing, the hero must still have a childish side. Lacradian, however, knows it was not a joke. Crash's eyes were too serious. Those eyes carry the absolute conviction that the world will be destroyed. Inspired by this certainty, she decides she will also give her all for his goal. The closeness between Lack and Crash does not go unnoticed by Derek. He informs Crash that they have reached the 7th mechanical labyrinth and warns him to prepare. Countless traps and monsters await them, and the labyrinth walls move on their own, making it vital to use their observation skills so they do not get lost. Our hero, however, claims there is no reason to worry. After all, Derek is an excellent guide who will lead them to the 8th floor by the easiest route. At that exact moment, all the labyrinth walls begin to move, threatening to separate the group. Lek apologizes to Crash, as she deduces this is a cowardly trick by the Fendel faction, who knows every inch of the maze palace. She was already expecting a trap on this floor, and so getting separated from the guide would be the worst possible scenario. However, our hero knows exactly how to handle the situation. The girl wonders what he means by that. He reveals that he will use one of his skills to escape the labyrinth. In return, he asks her to carry him, as the technique requires immense concentration. The girl puts him on her back and dashes down the corridor without hesitation. He instructs her to turn right in 500 meters. Running at high speed, she obeys him and turns left at the next junction. The walls, once black, now turn red, a sign that they are approaching the exit, and his instructions are even more precise than their guide Derek's. She begins to realize how many other talents he is still hiding. As she runs, the hero steadies himself on her back. Suddenly, the crow warns of a nearby presence and tells Crash to stop, causing both of them to hold their breath. Noticing something, the hero quickly covers her mouth to ensure silence. He instructs her to suppress her presence as much as she can. Immediately after, a loud crash echoes behind them. A figure appears, commenting that not even an aura sword can destroy the walls of the maze palace. She repairs the destroyed walls, stating that there is no end to them. It is the World Corruptor, the armed princess of the Tiger Clan. Our hero is shocked to recognize her, because the weapons maniac is here, in the maze palace. World Corruptors are beings with special abilities, born from the world's own corruption. Although there are calm types like Velasquez and Crimson, others are agents of destruction like her, one of the 10 strongest beings on the planet. The revelation leaves the crow in shock, who warns that this maniac is incapable of reason or conversation. Based on his experience, he concludes that the best thing to do is keep their distance. The situation is problematic, as our hero knows that without the Thunderstar, he does not have a sword capable of defeating her. Furthermore, if his current blade cannot withstand the power of his attacks, he will not be able to fight at full strength. Despite everything, there is a crucial reason to stop that maniac from obtaining the Thunderstar. That sword can become the best in the world or the worst, depending on who wields it, and the Martial God Institute plans to give it to the Sword Sovereign. The result would be humanity's defeat by the World Corruptors. It was because of the Thunderstar that Charlotte managed to defeat the Sword Sovereign before the regression. Before, Arthur avoided the sword to force a fight between Charlotte and the Sovereign. But in this life, he will not use her as a sacrifice, because he needs her and the others to stop the world from collapsing. He decides to eliminate the Corruptors one by one, but notices she arrived first and tells Crash to give up on the sword for now. He informs them he is heading to the 8th floor, leaving the crow startled by his decision. Using the features of the 8th floor, they can steal the Thunderstar, even if they cannot defeat the armed princess. She will not dare to act against him, as she fears Balrog. On the 8th floor, the carriage area, they notice something strange. Even though it is underground, the view from the window shows the surface in perfect peace. The white-haired boy says they can admire the view later, because as soon as they defeat Hakuten, they will be free to explore the treasures of the 8th, 9th, and 10th floors. They believe no one else is in their way, since the Fendel faction only needs to focus on defeating Hakuten, whose group has split up and is unlikely to survive. This is Soldier Rick, the vice leader of the Road faction, who claims he does not care if they are called cowards. Everything is done to ensure the leader's efforts are not in vain. The truth is that Fendel is a man capable of doing anything on his own. Even so, with the combined strength of the challengers, they can overcome even the giant wall known as Hakuten. His words leave the vice leader, Soldier Rick, in shock. On that day, Icarus was brutally destroyed and its leader, Killerin, was annihilated by Hakuten. He left behind more than his sword, but the dream of conquering the Maze Palace remains alive. Among those who came to the Maze Palace for the first time, Hugo shows he is willing to inherit Killerin's dream and follow him. Everyone celebrates, believing the Fendel Road faction will live a long life. While Lacradian stubbornly stares at the wall, Fendel looks back and inspires his companions. They inform leader Frenda that they are almost at the location where Rakuten is. He warns that the time has finally come and that this time they will defeat him with their own hands. And so, Arthur raises his sword and everyone celebrates the victory in advance. Then, the greatest world corruptor, the weapons maniac, appears before them. Her eyes fixate on the sword and obsession takes over. The 3 members of the Frenda Road faction freeze in shock at the sight of her. Their entire bodies scream danger, paralyzing them on the spot while their minds command them to run. The tigress destroys her enemies in a matter of seconds. She licks her lips, commenting that it was not bad at all. Her attention turns to the sword and she wonders what kind of weapon it is. The trio remains in shock, their bodies unable to move. He tries to warn his men, but his voice comes out cold and tense. The instant he orders a retreat, it is already too late and many are eliminated. Still, he manages to raise his sword to defend himself from the tigress attack. Even so, his body trembles before the enemy's overwhelming power. The tigress notices he let his companions escape first, acknowledging his good instincts. However, they cannot escape the shadow clones, created to eliminate what she considers trash. No weapon can stand against them. She claims that by now, his companions are likely already dead. He has only one chance, so he stays on the defensive, keeping his guard up. Suddenly, she is surprised by something he is doing. An intense light erupts from Fendel. He leaps and uses his lightning ability, blinding the tigress. Green lightning begins to course through the black blade of his sword. He knows that if he bets everything on this strike, he will have no strength left to face Hakuten. But if he does not defeat them now, there will be no second chance. He uses the Thunder Wolf's pillage. A massive wolf of green lightning charges at her, and he manages to land a cut. His eyes widen, believing he has won. But in that instant, a deep gash appears on his neck. He can barely process that he has been hit. She understands this is the sword's ability. As her neck begins to regenerate, the technique nullifies the senses of everyone nearby except for the user. Her neck regenerates completely. She asks if he really underestimated her, thinking such an attack would work against the woman of world corruption. His neck is severely wounded. He is defeated. The damage she took was transferred to him with an overwhelming force that defies logic. Now that he has spent all his aura on the attack, he has nothing left. He tries to offer his sword in exchange for his friend's safety, but she informs him they are all already dead. She unleashes another attack, as he laments not being able to face Hakuten again. He wonders if this is the end, as he watches her charge a final, special attack. Lacradian arrives to help his comrades and questions Fendel's expression, reminding him that he is their leader. She calls him pathetic, but suddenly begins to writhe on the ground. In that moment, he sees Crash Valhan arrive to save him, attacking the girl. Crash tells Fendel to get out of the way and points his sword at the woman. She recognizes him as a direct descendant of the Valhans and declares that she wants the Thunderstar sword. He notices she has barely taken any damage, even after being hit by the flame erosion slash. She wonders what kind of idiot would face her alone, as the hero watches Sifendel retreat. She then asks Crash what he did, since her damage reflection did not work. He explains that he cannot avoid this fight. Sifendel is the target, and he will not let her steal the ability. He is trying to collect it before the world is destroyed, which is why he had no choice but to intervene. He wants to use his memories from before the regression to avoid combat as much as possible. While he tells the armed princess that the Thunderstar is his and she should give up, she is in shock when she hears him say her name, Quidelphia. Knowing her real name means he is also a world corruptor. That is why her ability did not work, because he also manipulates corruption. Feeling deceived, She demands to know his true identity, guessing he is someone from whom she once stole a weapon. He accuses her of meowing like a noisy kitten and unleashes a flaming attack. In response, he executes a spinning attack with his flaming sword. In that instant, she throws multiple daggers at him. He dodges all the blades while spreading fire across the area. Shocked that he dodged her attacks, she wields an axe. She strikes with the axe, but he blocks the impact with his sword. Next, she activates her ability, and her hair turns red. She realizes he dodges her strikes as if he knows exactly what weapon she possesses. She questions why he is using more corruption power and what he is truly hiding. Her objective was to avoid any involvement with the martial Emperor Balrog. Thus, she intended to avoid an all-out fight against an unknown enemy. However, she feels that something is wrong, and her instincts scream that she must eliminate him now, at any cost. He realizes the time he bought is running out, and that only one last door remains. Balaam risked his life to obtain the Thunder Star, but this man got it by chance, thanks to the Messiah Palace's self-repairing ability. Destroying the palace interior is almost impossible, and that is why no one knows the 8th floor is a real-world field. He notices that unlike the other floors, the 8th floor carriages burned by Ignis do not regenerate, and the burned doors simply disappear. The last door is right behind him, and with the carriage being destroyed, she will be ejected into a field in the middle of nowhere. Now she understands the reason. He was buying time, using his attacks to burn the carriage while dodging her blows. Claws emerge from her hands as her body takes on a bestial form. Enraged at being deceived, she lunges at him with a devastating flying kick. The tiger woman charges toward him like a whirlwind. Facing the massive blow, he takes a deep breath, and she feels a strange presence emanating from him. She realizes his corruption power has reached a completely different level. Her instincts scream in alarm, ordering her to flee immediately. She swears she will never forgive him at the exact moment he unleashes the second form of the flaming erosion, the celestial sword of destruction. The massive blow surges forward with full force and strikes the tiger woman head-on. The impact hurls her out of the 8th floor. The force of the attack launches her far away from the area. The girl is ejected from the carriage at extremely high speed. He knows that if he meets her again, she could actually eliminate him. Despite the risk, he was prepared for the danger in exchange for the Thunderstar, and now he closes the door. He sheathes his sword, and the flames die out. He wonders why only problems keep appearing in his path. After all, he was lucky to avoid a direct confrontation this time, but he knows the next time will not be easy and that he needs to get stronger. The crow asks how he managed to defeat the maniacal armed princess. He ignores the question and asks what happened to Lacradian, but the crow just tells him to see for himself. Upon finding Fendel injured and being tended to, he demands to know what happened while he was away. Fendel tried to save him and ended up wounded by a clone, which disappeared the exact moment the main body was defeated. He stares at Fendel on the ground, defeated after sacrificing himself to save his comrades. He is shocked to realize that Fendel saved Lacradian. Before the regression, he was a good-for-nothing from the Masri Palace who mistreated his comrades and abandoned lives without remorse. Since Fendel was an obstacle in his past life and also in this one, he assumed that nothing had changed since before the regression. But in judging him this way, he realizes he is not so different from Arthur.